government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. The idea that Los Angeles and what am I doing here? For two reasons. One, I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure. Let's be clear. I hear it all the time. Cumulative deficit, I can play for the programs many times over. Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys. Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America.
Welcome back to another night of Shtick with Koolfrogg. I'm telling you. It's such a fun night. I actually was able to go to a park because it wasn't blistering hot like it had been. And I've actually made it back just in time for this awesome episode of Shtick with Koolfrogg. We're going to actually go through a few different things. We're going to do a little bit of what of a watch party when it comes down to it. There's lots of different videos that we're going to actually watch, different people that have different things to say. And of course, we're going to actually talk shit about them while we do that such thing. We'll say hi to everybody here real quick. I'm going to actually wait off of that first one that was there because she told me she wasn't going to be here for a little bit. We'll wait for her to come say hi to actually say hi to her. What's up, Moose Maneuver? What? Are you agitated, angry? What's going on? You talk to me, brother. We'll try holding the conversation with you. What is up? Beautifully inappropriate. Good to see you. Glad you're here. It seems as though as I do have some competition for the night, it seems that there's an awful lot of people that are actually currently live. We'll see how many people actually decide to come here and join us. When you do come here and join us, make sure you bump that like button for me. Share this out to all those places that you'd like to share things. Do all those YouTube-y like things for me. That'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you so much for doing so. Top of the ticket, Obama's dead chef. Obama's dead chef. I mean, we can speculate and we can actually guess on what exactly happened and why. But, at the same time, at first they didn't even call it out as that. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So very first article off just the news says divers recover body near Obama estate in Martha's Vineyard during search for a lost paddleboarder. A group of divers recovered a body of a paddleboarder who disappeared on Sunday evening while on Edgartown Great Pond in Massachusetts. The 43-year-old black man reportedly was last seen about 7:46 p.m. The witness claimed to have seen him struggling to stay afloat. He was reportedly not wearing a life jacket, according to the Daily Mail. The apparent drowning occurred near Obama's family Martha's Vineyard estate. An emergency crews responded to the residence, which was listed as the dispatch address for the incident. It is unclear whether any of the Obama family members were staying at the house. The body was recovered roughly 100 feet from shore. Authorities recovered the individual's paddleboard and hat on Sunday evening. His identity has not been released as of press time. And that's the original article. That's where the original article went. And I'm like, that's kind of vague. Just some random paddleboarder that's out in the middle of the this pond or wherever they want to actually call it is actually, just so happens to be 100 feet offshore and found, deceased in itself. And I'm like, okay, if why they used this address as the dispatch address is, the Martha's Vineyard estate, is what really kind of made me like, why would they actually say that was the dispatch address if that's the case? You'd think that they would actually avoid such a thing of actually calling that the dispatch address unless there was something more to it. So, went ahead and I was waiting, pulling up several different articles of the day. At one point in time, I end up messaging somebody else saying, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And they actually messaged me first. Thank you, Suzanne. She messaged me first and actually said something about it, and I kind of said, "Yeah, I kind of heard something about a paddleboarder, but didn't hear who it was or what it was about." Well, then all of a sudden, as I'm actually messaging her, she messaged me back, and I said, "Oh, never mind. I found something. Here it is. Obama's personal chef, John's near their Martha's Vineyard home." Huh, his personal chef. I wonder what caused that to actually happen. He just, wanted to get some exercise. He wanted to go out and paddleboard and, have a good time about 100 feet offshore, whatever. Nothing to see here. Nothing big. The body of former White House sous chef who worked for ex-President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle was recovered Monday in the waters near their Martha Vineyard estate. It said that originally, was Sunday that this had occurred, or the last time that they were actually seen. So it was a period of time between Sunday and Monday that Tafari Campbell, age 45, was actually doing such a thing with a paddleboard, supposedly. And it just so happened to come up or not show up, whatever. And they actually had to go out and actually throw a dive crew to go find him. It says, known as the chefs as a brewed White House honey ale beer, while Obama was in office, using honey from Michelle Obama's famous South Lawn garden, went to work for the former first couple when they left the White House. In a statement, the Obama said that one of the top chefs of the White House kitchen, Tafari, was a beloved part of our family. When we first met him, he was a talented sous chef at the White House, creative and passionate about food and its ability to bring people together. In the years that followed, we got to know him as a warm, fun, extraordinarily kind person who made all of our lives a little brighter. That's why, when we were getting ready to leave the White House, we asked Tafari to stay with us, and he generously agreed. He's been part of our lives ever since, and our hearts are broken that he's gone. Today, we join everyone who knew the love Tafari, especially his wife, Charisse, and their twin boys, Xavier and Savon. In grieving the loss of a truly wonderful man. The Obamas have been spending part of the summer in Martha's Vineyard for years. Massachusetts State Police said Campbell was from Dumfries, Virginia, and was visiting Martha's Vineyard at the time of his passing. President and Mrs. Obama were not present in the residence at the time of the accident. They just so happened to not be there when the incident actually occurred. How is it that that house was actually the one that was actually listed as the address if there was nobody actually there? There's nobody actually there. And then it said that he was actually asked to come join them, like he was living in the house as their personal chef. If he was living in the house as their personal chef, who was around that actually called the police to actually report such an incident? It really seriously kind of confusing when it actually comes down to it, and it really makes you wonder who or what actually did happen. Authorities started searching the waters near Obama home after receiving reports of a missing paddleboarder on Sunday. Campbell's body was found shortly after 10 a.m., recovered from the Edgertown Great Pond by Massachusetts State Police divers. The divers made the recovery after the Campbell's body was located by Massachusetts environmental police officers, deploying side-scan sonar from a boat. Police also said Campbell was found approximately 100 feet from shore in a depth of about 8 feet. Which is deep enough, deep enough for anybody to actually, drown. It's not unheard of for somebody to drown in 8 feet of water, especially when you're 100 feet out from shore. The potential for that to actually occur is great. Police also said Campbell was found approximately 100 feet from the shore to the depths of about 8 feet. The investigation into fatality is being conducted by the State Police Detective Unit for the Cape Island District of Edgertown Police. The search started at about 7:46 p.m. on Sunday when Martha's Vineyard Police and fire agencies responded to a call for a male paddleboarder who had gone into the water, appeared to briefly struggle to stay on the surface, and then submerged and did not resurface. Another paddleboarder was in the pond with him at the time and observed him go under the water. Observed him go under the water. He didn't attempt to go try saving him in any way, shape, or form. You're just like, oh, oops, he's submerged. Just leave him there. Don't go and try saving him. It's very, very disturbing to actually think what actually did happen to this particular person and why such an occurrence actually did happen. Hey, Rose, good to see you, dear. The search started about 7:46 p.m. on Sunday when Martha's Vineyard Police and fire agencies responded to a call for a male paddleboarder who had gone into the water, appeared to briefly struggle to stay on the surface, and then submerged and not resurface. Another paddleboarder was in the pond. Multiple agencies assisted in the search for recovery. In the statement, the state police and those agencies, including Edgerton's fire and all other island fire departments, local police, state police patrols, air wing, and detectives, the Dukes County Sheriff's Department, and the Coast Guard. And I'm not going to be the one that actually speculate and actually say that it was anybody in particular that may have actually done such a thing. But, when it comes down to it, it really seriously makes me wonder who would have actually been such a person to do a thing to somebody else. And if it was just his own accident. I think there's a lot of questions that actually go along with this particular topic and subject when it comes to this person. Kind of disturbing. And I think we can all kind of speculate on what actually may have actually happened. Like maybe he knew something that he shouldn't have known, and they didn't like the fact that he knew it. Let's hope that isn't the actual case, and that there is actually just that it was an accident. It was just an accident, and there's no foul play to go along with this incident. I really seriously, I'll pay attention to this in the next few days to see if anything new comes out of this incident, to see what actually does come up, because I really seriously think that there's more to this. I really do. And it's sad to believe that, somebody would actually do such a thing to him. I really don't have much more about this particular topic other than the fact that, he did work for the Obamas. So, I mean, I guess we can all kind of think about that and speculate on our own on what may have actually happened. Now, as I was actually trying to figure out what to actually do for today, I was looking around, and there's a lot of videos of different topics and different subjects to go along with today. Murph's Turf, hello, good to see you. Glad you're here. Stick around. We're actually going to go through some more news and politics, different types of articles that are up for today. So then kind of, move on from that incident, because I don't see there being an hour's worth of content just in that itself. That's ridiculous to actually believe that there would be that much to talk about just the one guy and where he just so happened to come from. Feral Housewife, hello, good to see you. Glad you're here. Y'all hit that like button for me. That'd be awesome. We're going to actually watch some videos here to go along with, the news and politics of the world or the United States. I kind of skipped the world today. I usually usually do like a China, Ukraine thing at the very beginning of the day. And I'm like, I'm done with that. I just don't want to do it. I wanted to skip over it and just move on to local stuff. So everything tonight is pretty much going to be from the United States. So here we go. We got Mr. Swalwell, Fang's butt buddy or whatever you want to call him. He actually holds a little conversation with this young lady here about Donald Trump's impeachments and his thoughts on the expungement that is actually being talked about his previous impeachments and everything that was going along with that. Lefty Laws, good to see you. Glad you're here. Awesome. Glad you're all here. Enjoy your stay. Enjoy your stay. We're going to actually go through some of the.
I want to start before we even get sort of the Trump piece of this and the legal piece of this by talking about what is happening in your legislative body, because you have Kevin McCarthy moving forward with efforts to expunge both of Trump's impeachments. You were an impeachment manager for Trump's first impeachment trial. What do you make of that effort? What is it they are trying to do?
And you can see him the whole time. He's shaking his head. No, he's upset. He's like, nope, nothing's going to come good out of this. There's no way that he's going to actually be like, yeah, we should totally expunge it, all of his impeachments and anything that had anything to do with it. Though the impeachments are only through the House and never actually passed through the Senate, it's still something to actually pay attention to. Anti-Adjack, good to see you. I sent you a couple of links for folks that you may want to have since I can't drop them here. Couple of links for. Okay. Where did you send those? Are you just. Did you. What's this? Okay. Not really sure if I'm reading your thing correctly or not. But I'm glad that everybody's here. Glad you're all here. Like I said, hit that like button. We're going to actually continue with what Swalwell actually has to say about this potential expungement that most likely won't happen. There's no way. There's no way that they're just going to be like, yeah, let's expunge those because they didn't stick anyway. They were just in the House and never actually through to your email. Okay. I'll take a glance there while I hit this play button.
Expunging Donald Trump by way of Kevin McCarthy, Alicia, it's weak. It's predictably pathetic from Speaker McCarthy. And when I think about expungement, I think, what are you going to do about that day? Are you going to make it go away? Or are we going to forget that it ever happened? Will it never be taught to our children?
Let's talk about things that will never be taught to our children. Let's talk about all those democratic thoughts and opinions that actually came out from the beginning of time. When you actually think about it and you actually look at things like that 3-letter thing that starts with a K, ends with a K, just so happened to be an anti-Republican type of thing. And then, we look at the left and what they were actually all about when it came to, the summer of love, where they burnt down cities and buildings, federal buildings, multiples, things that actually never actually happened under Trump's administration or under Trump's watch. It wasn't something that he really wanted. It was something that they actually did themselves. It's those Democrats. It's those Democrats that we have to look at that are actually the hypocrites that will sit there and point fingers at Republicans when it's actually them themselves that are the ones that actually are the ones that actually have done so much to hurt this nation.
Expungement is not going to bring back the sight for the officer who lost his eye that day. It's not going to put a finger back on the hand of the officer who lost a finger that day. It's not going to bring Officer Sicknick back to life. It only benefits one person, and that happens to be the person who aimed and inspired the mob to bring the hell and the fury that they brought to January 6th, Donald Trump. Again, it's a weak, pathetic move. It does nothing to change what happened that day, and it will do nothing to stop another January 6th if we were to allow it to happen. So I dare every Republican, especially the 19 in the Biden districts, I dare you to vote to expunge Donald Trump. And by the way, the guy is probably going to get indicted for what he did.
He's daring you. He's daring you to do such a thing and actually go ahead and try to actually expunge the record that is there. And for him to actually be such a jerk about it and actually be like, I dare you, go ahead and try it. Well, you know what, Mr. Swalwell, as far as you go, I dare you to attempt to try doing anything legitimate in your life that doesn't entail some Chinese spy. I mean, we can go there. We can actually point fingers if that's what you really want to do. But, you know, are we going to? What's up, Boomer? Good to see you. MLS Law Show of what's going on. Good to see you. Glad you're here. That's awesome.
On January 6th. So it'd be, you know, pretty interesting to see them do that. And the timing would be quite exquisite if that's the route that they want to go.
When you talk about those 19 Republicans who are in Biden districts, do you have any sense that Kevin McCarthy understands the fire that he is playing with, that he understands the position he would be putting members of his own caucus in were he to bring this for a vote on the House floor?
He doesn't, because he's had, you know, the 19 Biden Republicans, you know, vote for the most extreme measures, you know, to deprive women of making decisions about their bodies. He's put up votes, you know, that would hurt our veterans so that we would not end up paying, you know, America's bills and lifting the debt ceiling. And by the way, the government is heading toward a shutdown because the craziest of the MAGA caucus are already saying that we have to shut down the government. And so these 19 Biden Republicans, by the way, many of them in districts that are going to be redrawn because they were the result of
what 19 Biden Republicans? What? Oh, wait a minute here. What did he say to me?
Caucus are already saying that we have to shut down the government. And so these 19 Biden Republicans, by the way, many of them in districts that are going to be redrawn because they were the result of, you know, dirty gerrymandering.
Okay, gerrymandering. There you go. Let's talk about gerrymandering. Who all gerrymanders? Oh, yeah. Is it just one side or the other that actually sits there and draws districts over and over again to try making it so that it actually can change where the populace is and who actually gets to actually be selected for, you know, a role in the House of Representatives? When you actually think about it, both sides gerrymander each other. It's not a one-sided deal. It's never been a one-sided deal. For us to actually think that it's, you know, that it's the Republicans that are gerrymandering when we see Democrats doing the same exact thing, we really seriously need to actually think about it. And when I say think about it, I mean when it comes down to these districts that are going to be redrawn, those people need to actually understand that, you know, there's going to be incumbents that are going to be going and facing against incumbents. It's not going to be cute, and it's going to be very dangerous to actually see what actually does come out of it. Jungmin Shelley, good to see you. Glad you're here. You know, I really don't like the fact that one side sits there and points fingers at the other and says that, oh, they're gerrymandering, they're racist, they're this, they're that. For us to continuously point fingers at each other and just be like, oh, this, that, and the other against the other is ridiculous. I don't believe that we actually are or should be as divided as we really are. They make it sound like we're more divided than what we should be. And I know that there's a lot of people, there's a lot of new people in here today, and I see them all. I see y'all looking at it, and y'all see this Trump flag that says 2024. Right now, as we speak, I don't see anybody that's actually anything better than what this guy is currently. Now, if I'm going to pay attention, I'm going to be paying attention to both sides of this this particular issue as we walk into 2024. And we're going to call out both sides for their bullshit. We called out Kevin McCarthy for his being a swamp creature himself, and him actually talking about trying to expunge Trump's impeachments or whatever isn't necessarily him talking about it. There's no way that it's just him. This is something that's probably come up out of the Freedom Caucus that has actually crossed his desk, and something that he's potentially interested in looking at. The Michigan Republicans redo the lines before the last election and lost both houses of representatives. It's not a perfect science. It never has been, and it never will be. It never will be. As long as we continue to redistrict and redraw lines, over and over again, every single election season, you're never going to actually have something that is perfect. It's always going to be imperfect, no matter what. It's so imperfect is how you come up with people's like George Santos, or you come up with the idiocy of somebody like Fetterman when he hits the Senate. It really, seriously, people don't think and don't actually pay attention. I like frogs. Replace the flag with a frog pic. This one here, this 2024 one, because it's actually dated, will eventually get replaced with something. I was probably thinking of like an eagle of sort, or something that will actually kind of be slightly different. And obviously, Let's Go Brandon, in itself is dated. It's dated. So there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot going on. Truth has no algorithm. Nope. It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
Back in 2020, they are squarely in peril, and they've shown every single time that they're going to choose MAGA chaos over.
Madcore Mofo gifted 5 Koolfrogg memberships. Thank you so much, Madcore. That's awesome. I really do appreciate it. Anti-Divinity, W Daisy Girl, to Helen Back and Melissa Jane. Y'all hit that and make sure that you actually accept those gifts, because you never know when one's going to come through. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
The good of the community.
I do appreciate you.
Thing that I, having been in the field during midterms and talked to a lot of voters in a lot of parking lots, feel that I heard over and over again is that voters do understand the opportunity cost of anything that members of Congress do that is really meant as a symbolic gesture, right? They understand that that is time that could otherwise be spent in the interest of legislating on core issues like the economy, job creation. So I wonder, given that context, what you make of Donald Trump's insistence that his trial be pushed back into 2024, because there are questions of what that means for the GOP primary, what that means.
What the Juby primary, whatever the word that was that she actually said there, when it comes down to him actually pushing it out, he was trying to push it out as far as he possibly could. He wanted it to actually happen after the 2024 elections. That way he could actually just go ahead and, be let off on any and all charges in his own mind. Because if there's any of it was a state thing or whatever, he wouldn't be able to actually take care of it himself. He would actually need the state governor to actually take care of it for him. Only on federal crime would he actually be able to actually let himself off on all charges. For the judge to actually go ahead and push it and say May 2024 for his hearings for his raid from Mar-a-Lago and all those papers, those 34 documents that came out of the 52 boxes that were there, just so happened to be that he's in a very, very Republican county as it is, and they're very, very prone to actually voting for Trump in the first place. That it's going to be a tainted pool if they think that they're actually going to get anything out of it. I really don't see them actually getting too far with that. Unless you and Koolfrogg are going to have to stream together sometime. I'm down. I'm totally down. Anytime that he wants, he actually hit me up. We'll totally do that. At Koolfrogg, on YouTube at Koolfrogg, on Twitter, koolfrogg@gmail.com, spelt the same way you see it on the screen. Hit me up any way, shape, or form, and we'll totally hook that up. Honest question: do you have a frog pet? And if yes, can we see frog game? No, I do not have a pet. I do have a child at the age of 3 that I do call Tadpole, as he is, my child. So as far as that goes, that's where my money goes to. Is to actually raising him, and I'm actually homeschooling him. So as far as that goes, at the age of 3, he's more intelligent than most kindergartners at this point in time. Very, very smart and very fun. That's cute and weird. I mean, it is. It can be something. But yeah, it totally hit me up, MLS. We'll totally do something. I'm down.
Means for Donald Trump himself. But there's also this question of the Trump hangover and the extent to which Elise Stefanik and McCarthy are busy on their weekly phone calls with Donald Trump instead of pivoting back to the business of actually delivering for their voters and the American people.
Yeah. Look, when it comes to priorities, every day that Jim Jordan spends chiding people for how they want to use their pronouns is a day that the Biden administration and Democrats are working for working people. And I think the best example, the most concrete example, literally.
The Democrats are working for the working people. Come on now. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me with your government overreach. I know better. I know better. And the reason I say that I know better is because I came from the state of Minnesota, that notoriously communistic in themselves, have been for a very, very long time. And you're not going to tell me that the Democrats are the ones that are actually going to work for the people. They're against the people. They're against the people, and they're going to continue to do whatever they can. It's moving here to this wonderful state of South Dakota that I appreciate. It's so much more, as I remember voting for Obama twice. And then when it came to Hillary, I just couldn't do it. And it actually made me actually grab a history book and actually start looking into the actual truth of the matter, and actually realizing that Democrats really aren't the nicest people. They're the ones that are actually the ones that are doing all this government overreach. They keep on moving themselves further and further left. And we've seen in the last few days where we actually watched people actually move themselves from the Democratic side to the Republican side of things, because they're like, oh, Democrats are too far off. Democrats are moving themselves further and further left as we actually go. And it's very disturbing and disgusting to actually see how far they've actually gone. Susan Eckstein, thank you so much for that Canadian $10. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Is I-95. The thing collapsed in Pennsylvania a couple months ago. It could have been shut down for a year. It was put back up in 2 weeks. That's showing government competence at its best, contrasted with the chaos that Donald Trump and others would bring. And when I think about his trial and what Republicans are going to do to try and poison the well here, just take a step back. The guy is trying to delay.
The guy is just kind of delay. Yeah, no, he's not trying to delay anything. It's Democrats that have this box of macaroni that they keep on throwing at the wall that's uncooked and absolutely nothing sticking. Over and over again, they keep on trying to pull something new out, trying to actually slam Trump for anything they possibly can to project, so that we don't look at Joe Biden and the corruption that actually comes from him and his son. We will get into a little bit of that too as we kind of move on here. Preach. I'll try. Dems gave up on Iowa. The Dems giving up on Iowa, that whole ordeal with them actually going ahead and actually going and turning themselves into to South Carolina, which has a predominantly, as they call it, African-American voter base, is what they're actually going to do. Is they're going to, I believe Roger Stone. I believe Roger Stone when it comes down to it. I believe that when worse comes to worse, We're actually going to see the absence of Joe Biden, the push for Kamala Harris for a short bit to actually be president for just a couple months. But then they're going to actually look at somebody better, and they're actually going to look at somebody like Michelle Obama, and they're going to allow somebody like Gavin Newsom to actually go ahead and purchase that vice presidential seat, and that you'll actually see Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom. I really do see it, and it's very scary to actually believe that's what's actually going to happen. I'm in Iowa. I'm waving north at you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Keep the people dumb and fighting, brush Hunter under the rug, and attack Trump. That's their strategic plan. That's been their strategic plan for several years now. It's been their strategic plan to actually do such a thing. They do not like Donald Trump whatsoever. Preach it. If you want the government up your ass, keep voting Democrat. Exactly. Thank you for the 1999 MLS Law Show. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
A trial that he says is rigged. You have a speedy trial right in America, and no innocent person would say that the trial against them is rigged and it's a dirty prosecution and then go out of their way to delay justice for as long as possible. An innocent person would walk through glass and crawl through fire to get their day in court and show their innocence. He's not acting like an innocent guy.
Are you sure he's not acting like an innocent guy? I mean, I really seriously, this guy pisses me off every single time I see him. I watched this earlier and I'm just like, this guy, I hate this guy. He's so bad. He's so horrible. Thank you, Great Liquor, for the 5 gifted membership. Looks like Murph's Turf, Gene XO, Jay Liebgott, Toy Box Brain, and the Skeptical Truther all pick up those gifted memberships. Now, what comes along with that gifted membership, I usually don't do a lot, but what I do is I actually have a Discord link. You can actually make it into the Discord. You come join us on a regular conversation. There's several of us that sit there for a majority of the day. A lot of them actually fall asleep through the night, and is something that is actually kind of fun to actually see. So this guy of Swalwell, daring Republicans to expunge, Trump's impeachments, and then going and walking away with his wife is really seriously something of, with his prostitute of Fang Fang, and actually seeing where they're actually going to go with that is really kind of disturbing. MLS Law Show at night. You have a wonderful night. Sleep well. Good to see you. Glad you're here. I appreciate your donation. So then again, we're going to listen to several different people, several different videos tonight. Those of you that are around, I usually do stick here for at least usually an average of about 3.5 hours is where a show usually ends up going. Being that most of this is actually video and we'll be pausing as we listen to it. Some of them may actually be eventually yeeted and not listened to thoroughly. There seems to have been an ordeal with Liz Cheney speaking with Lester Holt. Liz Cheney, that rhino in herself, really seriously seems to be very comfortable, very, very comfortable with those Democrats. She's really chummy with them and very buddy.
Thoughts on the indictment of Donald Trump in the documents case? You had warned it was a national security threat back when the original search took place at Mar-a-Lago. Give me your assessment.
Why everybody laughed the second that he actually said a word, it was kind of disturbing in itself to actually be like, really? Your leftist audience thought that was funny? They thought it was hilarious that, that we're talking about a documents case when we're not looking at everybody's documents cases, because if we looked at everybody's, we'd be looking at Joe Biden's document case as well, and what he's actually done and where he's actually going, with his documents, leaving them strewn along the garage floor or in a private office with Chinese spies or whatever else. I mean, it just really seriously, it floors me to think that they're actually going as far as they are, trying to push it to one side when it's actually not just one side. They need to look at both.
Well, I think that, we've seen now with the audio tape that is out today as well, that there's just simply no question that he's unfit to be the president of the United States. And, accountability.
I don't think she's fit to be president of the United States either, but for whatever reason, she still seems that she wants to actually contend for that seat of trying to be president of the United States. Get rid of her. Get rid of her. Don't even think about it.
Really matters. Accountability.
She's as bad as a Democrat
for those issues that we've now seen in terms of this indictment over the documents. Accountability for what he did on January 6th really matters. And I say that I think the Department of Justice has done a good job in terms of
spending a lot of money on something that was unnecessary. Okay.
Prosecution and the convictions that they've obtained for hundreds now of the people who actually were in the Capitol, for the more senior people, for seditious conspiracy, for some of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. I think it's fundamentally important that not just the foot soldiers are held to account for what happened, but that accountability go all the way up to the top.
So great,
and
Liquor.
If it doesn't, then those things will happen again, and we'll begin to see the republic unravel.
Those who are wondering, I just said hello, Great Liquor. He's over on the Rumble side of things. There is a Rumble channel that's actually attached to this, actually doing the same thing. As far as that goes, if something ever happens to this channel here on YouTube again, like it did once before, you make it over there, because I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to actually do the news and the politics that I like to enjoy doing on a nightly basis.
I want to drill down on that a bit later in our conversation, but let me ask you this. After the indictment, you reminded Republicans of something you had said before, and it was you are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain. I'm wondering if that doesn't ring a bit hollow now, because he has shown incredible strength through all this. 2 indictments, continues to lead the field by a wide margin for the Republican nomination, and appears to be getting stronger. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it proves my point. I mean, the dishonor of continuing to defend a man who has done what he did, who failed for 187 minutes to tell the mob to go home, the mob that he had provoked and that he knew
peacefully
was engaged in a violent assault on the Capitol. And then everything else that we have seen since. Wish. Obviously, the Select Committee made criminal referrals.
Stand up for yourself.
And I think that it's very clear for the Republican Party.
Inciting stuff.
They have to choose. And the choice is whether or not you support the Constitution or you support Donald Trump. But those are mutually exclusive. And if the Republican Party continues down this path and moves towards, for example, nominating Donald Trump for the presidency, I think that we have seen day after day after day the party go further and further down this path of not being salvageable. And
which party is moving further and further? The way I see it, and the way I've seen it over and over again, it looks as though as the left keeps on moving themselves further and further left, leaving those centrist Democrats to actually move themselves across the other line to actually make themselves centrist Republicans, as they feel that the Democrats have actually gone too far and aren't being fair when it comes down to it.
And I think the single most important issue, and I mean that, the single most important issue that faces this nation and we face a huge array of challenges and threats, and they're very complex. But the single most important issue is that Donald Trump never be anywhere near the Oval Office.
That's the single most issue. That's where she actually thinks that that's the thing that we need to pay attention to most, is not to just to be sure that Donald Trump doesn't hit office again. That's the issue. Come on. I've learned to not debate anyone unless it's in person on politics. I usually don't debate. I usually just hold the conversation about it as opposed to trying to debate. I don't believe anybody's ever going to win in any kind of debate when it comes to politics. When it comes to politics, there's always going to be, because there's so many different ideals and different things to actually look at when it comes down to it. For you to actually single out one side or the other is never going to actually work. It's never going to work. You're never going to win a debate in politics.
Again.
Your committee laid out a case against Donald Trump and his actions on January 6th. Do you expect the grand jury investigating for that part of the special counsel's office, do you suspect that they will bring an indictment?
Well, I only know obviously what I see in the news, and
oh, you only see what you see in the news. So you're listening to legacy leftist media and absolutely nothing else. Wonderful. So glad that you're actually paying attention to what is actually happening with this great United States that we live in, Miss Cheney, Miss Piggy.
I think it's very important, as I said, given what we know he did, given the extent to which we know he attempted to overturn the election, given his direct involvement in the fake elector scheme, given the extent to which he aided and abetted, at a minimum, those who are involved in the insurrection, failing to indict, failing to make sure he's held accountable, carries with it real danger for the republic. And so I certainly think that it would be proper, and that's the reason why obviously we made criminal referrals.
Do you think the DOJ and special counsel has moved swiftly enough, or do you feel like your committee kind of goaded them to move more quickly?
Well, I think that it was really important for the Congress to investigate. And one of the issues that I found inexplicable among many over the course of the last couple of years was how many Republicans did not want to have an investigation of January 6th. And I'm very proud of the work that our committee did in a bipartisan fashion. And I think that it was...
Yeah, in a bipartisan fashion, my ass. It looked like a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of rhinos sitting in front of a panel making up shit.
What we did and what we learned and what we were able to do was to lay out in great detail the facts about what was a very sophisticated multi-part plan to try to overturn an election and to try to remain in office, even though he had lost the election. He knew he'd lost the election. And then, of course, the tremendous dereliction of duty when he refused to stop the riot. And not only did he refuse to tell people,
when he refused to stop the riot, but when it was the Democrats telling you to push back at all those that are out there that are doing whatever they want, and inciting this summer of love, really seriously, the hypocrisy is just so disgusting and disturbing to actually listen to when it comes to this lady that's supposed to be a Republican. She's not. She just used she used her father as a stepping stone.
To leave. But in the middle of what he knew was a violent assault, he sent a tweet at 2:24 targeting his own vice president. I mean, this is behavior that certainly someone who engages in that behavior needs to be held accountable and shouldn't be part of our political process going forward.
And yet there was reporting, I think as recently as last week, that the FBI and DOJ were being extremely careful not to appear political to the point of not moving quickly. How do you assess that?
before she answers that question, Min Shelley says, I tend to blurt out, I hate Trump, and then I have to stop myself. You have the right to your own opinion. You always have the right to your own opinion, no matter what your opinion is, and nobody gets to tell you that you're wrong. It's your opinion. If that's the way you feel that Trump isn't the right person for the job, you have the right to feel that way. You have the right to feel that way. Now, when it comes down to, elections or whatever, and we actually see, 2024 coming around the corner, and we see one side or the other, and, are you going to go ahead and allow Joe Biden to continue to do what he had already done? Or will you go to the opposite and actually vote against him? Or would you actually go ahead and actually listen to what Trump was really actually about, everything that he actually did do, and what he does plan on doing again if he does win? Because when it comes down to it, there's 13 people that are up there for the Republican Party. There's 3 up there for the Democratic Party. Then you got Joe Manchin in an independent form on the No Limit Party. And then you got Cornel West with the Green Party, who's a very, very big socialist, who's more socialist than what Bernie Sanders was. There's a lot of people to look at this time around and pay attention to exactly what every single one of them are about before you decide where you want to actually go with that.
I think it's very important for them to conduct their work in a fashion that is divorced from politics. I don't think politics should be part of their decision making. And I think it's important for them to proceed with care and to proceed methodically. But I also think, as I've said, it's crucially important that Donald Trump be held accountable for what he did to this country on January 6th and leading up to it.
You've been quite outspoken and continue to be quite outspoken, but why is your message being rejected, or appears to be being rejected by so many Republicans?
We're in a moment now with the...
Because she's not a Republican. She just says that she is, and she's just lying.
Republican Party we've never seen before in this country. And I think that
you mean
there
the socialist
are
Democrats?
factors at play. One is that there's a cult of personality going on. Another is that leaders in the Republican Party who know that what I'm saying is true, who know how dangerous he is, are unwilling to say so. There's a sense of, well, we're just kind of bystanders here. And so the lies have gone unanswered. And millions of really good and honorable Americans have been betrayed. They still believe what Donald Trump is saying. And those members of Congress, elected officials around the country who know the truth, but who are refusing to say so, are complicit in the damage that is being done to the republic.
Do you think he can be reelected?
I think that he must not be. Right now, if you look at the polls, he clearly is the front runner for the Republican nomination. I think that nominating him will result in the Republican Party splintering, as it should.
As it should. You want it to splinter. You want it to be a bunch of little, trash little sectors. You got the Freedom Caucus, you got rhinos, you got Republicans. Where else do you want that to split up, to make it worthless and pointless that any Republican ever be able to pick up a seat ever again? Because Democrats are solid. Every single one of those Democrats are super solid with each other. We watched it. We watched it as we voted for McCarthy 15 times before he got selected for Speaker of the House, as they actually stayed with Hakeem Jeffries and went with him and stayed with him every single time. They're solid. They're not splintered, whatever. But you want to see Republicans actually get splintered? Go walk over to the Democratic side, you bitch.
And I think that everyone needs to be very aware of the danger that he presents. And I tell this to my Democratic friends, and I have more Democratic friends now than I used to.
Go figure. Go figure. The Rhino has more Democratic friends than she used to. She's really tweety. Yes, she does. I'm mad at politicians and the government overall because they're liars. David's really affected me. Good. I'm glad that somebody actually took and got to the point of actually waking you up to the situation that those Democrats have actually done to this country. It took me a lot. It took a couple people to actually swing my attitude as well. I put that up to Joe Neerman. Good logic actually, helped me out a ton, and actually made me actually open up and think about it a lot. To the likenesses of America Shirts, who is a normal co-host wherever the heck he is. We'll hopefully see her and hear from him soon. I really do miss him. He's actually kind of fun to actually listen to. When it comes down to it, you really seriously. I'm glad that somebody actually got to you and actually gave you a reason to look differently at almost anything else. Please don't just say Dems. It's all of them. It really is all of them. It really is. Two wings of the same bird, right?
But it is. It's really important for Democrats to take him seriously. There can be a tendency I see sometimes for people on the Democratic side to say, well, look, sure, the Republicans will nominate him. The Republicans are a mess, but we'll be able to beat him in a general. And that is playing with fire, and it's a risk we can't take. So I think it's really important for everyone to look at the threat that he poses apart from party ideology, and realize it's something that we have to take very seriously, and we've got to stand against.
At least on this issue, you seem so far apart from other Republican conservatives. And people ask, are you still a conservative? Is there still place in the party for people like yourself?
No, absolutely not. Get rid of her, move her on, let her go ahead and actually separate herself from that Republican Party and just be the Democrat that she actually really seriously is.
Well, I think those are two different questions. I am a conservative. What the Republican Party is doing today is not conservative.
I love the fact that you subbed.
I think the most conservative of any conservative principle is fidelity to the Constitution. And when you have a party that has abandoned that, they've abandoned conservatism. So I am a conservative. I also think it's important for us to recognize, we've looked into the abyss as a country, and we've started to pull back, but pulling back completely and ensuring that we don't unravel is going to require thinking about our politics in a different way. And it's going to require that we think about making sure the people we elect are serious, making sure that people we elect are honorable, making sure that they're committed to substance and to policy. And there's nothing better than a substantive, engaged debate with somebody with whom you disagree. If both of you are engaged based on substance, then that's how you learn things, and it's also how you get the best policy for the country. And I think that we have to steer our politics back to those kinds of debates and discussions.
Right now, referencing the Republican run for the nomination, Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson.
Oh my God. So this is where I'm going to actually stop with her. I can't actually listen to her anymore. Anything else that she really has to say doesn't go along with the whole Trump deal that I was actually trying to skirt around at the point or whatever. And actually, because that's exactly what she talked about for the first, 15 minutes of this speech is Trump. It's Trump. And then he finally persuades her to actually talk about anything else. And they kind of go off on some tangents. Kind of an interesting, conclusion to it, but at the same time, not where I was trying to go with it. I just wanted to actually, get her opinion to you from where her stance is on Trump and the possible expungement of his of his of anything. Really seriously, when you actually think about, of his impeachments, to actually take care of his impeachments, it isn't really going to ever happen. Nobody's going to say, okay, we'll expunge those, other than the fact that the impeachments that were there were only through the House and never actually finished through the Senate. It never actually come to a conclusion that he was actually impeached and should have been removed. It's not something that actually happened, and it should never happen. I'll buy you a frog if you vote Trump 24. Do you know Nick Starro? Because y'all are cousins, probably. I have no clue who that is. I have no clue. I'll take a look to see if is this a YouTuber? Somebody that has a channel that I could actually go and look at. That would be. Nick Starro's Trial Watch. Is that what I'm looking at? I'll take a look at it. I'll totally check out the channel. I'm one of those that actually has the tendency to go ahead and subscribe to everybody, because subscribe to everybody. You just never know who's going to go live next. And when you're actually on the internet, like YouTube, and somebody's just not there, but the next person is, you just might actually appreciate what they're about and what they're actually going to talk about. So, like I said, we were talking about Trump. So then this guy, Mr. Jim Justice, this guy out of, I believe it's West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, West Virginia, actually goes ahead and supports. He's the first senator to actually step up to the plate and be like, yes, I'm totally in support of what Trump is about, and actually bringing him back as president. Shiloh Mang, what's up, dear? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Oh, my bad. No sound. We'll try that again. What do you mean no sound? Did I reshare it wrong again? I bet I did. Go ahead. Call me a boomer. It's all right. I get it.
You know what it is, Dave. I mean, for God's sakes, a lift, I don't think it could ever become reality. Surely to goodness, Americans understand, loud and clear, the leadership, whether you liked him or didn't like him, that came from President Trump, and the successes that happened, when he was our president versus what we have today. I mean, what we have today is just, you know what it is, Dave. I mean, for God's sakes, a living. I mean, if President Biden were my father, I would not allow him. There was no way that I could allow him to embarrass himself and continue on in this job. There's no way. I mean, President Biden is really challenged, and it's sad. and, you know, others are pulling the strings in every way. But anything we touch almost is becoming toxic, whether it be Afghanistan, the border, all the different things, energy, on and on and on, inflation, just one thing right after another, whether it be crime or woke in schools, or, I mean, it is everything we touch turns to do. And then there's people that
everything we touch turns to do. And he isn't lying. Everything that's happened in the last few years under Biden administration has really seriously been a steaming pile of shit. He hasn't done a damn thing that's actually been good for us. He's actually trying to push this thing of Bidenomics that doesn't actually exist. It's something that he's just trying to use a term to try making you believe that everything is so good. I really don't see the so good. I really don't. I haven't seen it yet. And as far as that goes, you know, I'm with this guy when he actually straight out says everything that they've done is turned to do, whether it be Afghanistan, Ukraine, the billions of dollars that we've thrown at that comes out of our tax money, to the southern border, to teaching things like CRT and transvestitism in schools, and pushing such a thing on our children is really seriously increased tenfold over the last few years. And it's scary to actually believe that that's where we're going to actually go. To believe that Biden's good for us is a mistake. It's a big mistake. He's never done a damn thing good for us ever. You go back all the way to 1988, all the way back to 1994 when he passed drug and crime bills, incarcerating not those of color, but those of poverty over and over again, to actually see it be okay because the smartest man he knows is okay to do such a thing. The smartest man he knows just so happens to be his own son, who's okay with, you know, with him doing all those things, as well as, you know, being in the pockets of places like Burisma in Ukraine, all the way into all these, you know, CFC out of China. You know, so you look at all the things that have actually come out of this administration, all the things that have come out of his son, and not a single thing has actually been good. It's all been trash.
That don't like President Trump's personality. Well, there's people that don't like my personality. But with all that being said, I think that President Trump will be the nominee, and I think he'll be our next president, and I'm very hopeful of that.
And I'm with you, Jim Justice. I totally agree with you 1,000 times over on your thoughts and your opinions that, you know, Trump just at this point in time, because I don't hear anybody being anything better. I really don't like Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't think that he's actually a good contender for anything when it comes to the Republican Party. I really don't like any of the other dozen people that are actually, you know, looking at the seat either. They're all just as bad, if not worse. And the reason I say Vivek Ramaswamy is because, you know, everybody likes to actually point at DeSantis and be like, oh, what about DeSantis? DeSantis should be there. No, DeSantis actually dropped in points where Vivek Ramaswamy actually jumped in over the top of him, leapfrogged him just a little bit within the last few days to actually make it be that he was actually the number 2 contender, as opposed to seeing that very large percentage of people that are still, no, you're not going to tell us different. We want Trump. Trump, bring Trump back. Trump is the key to the situation. Jim Justice actually stepping up as a U.S. Senator to actually say such a thing. I give it to Jim Justice to actually be that guy that can actually maybe swing and hit something that none of these others, potentially even come close to. So then we're going to kind of move on a little bit. We're going to actually go ahead and we're going to swing over to Biden's corruption. There's some stuff that is actually happening that we've actually been following over the last few days when it came to committee hearings, when it came to House Ways and Means, and speaking with the likeness of RFK as well as a couple others, to actually bring out the truth about the corruption that the Bidens are actually involved in. There's a little 2-minute little clip here where they actually kind of speak of such a thing.
23 form that Senator Grassley released. The FBI was not happy about that. They said that it actually could create danger and safety issues for the human informant.
To be fair, this is actually faux news. Fox News can go fuck themselves just as much as any other. I really don't care. When it comes down to it, they're just spewing narrative just as much. Paid opposition.
Confidential source that came forward. It alleges a number of conversations with Burisma executives out of Ukraine saying allegedly that they were forced to pay the Bidens a certain amount of money for help with various issues. These are unverified allegations, but we have seen people in Washington, the Steele dossier comes to mind, run with unverified allegations, and that launching a number of investigations. So this 1023 form, former Attorney General Barr told me on the show a few weeks ago that it was sent to Delaware to the Weiss investigation that was already open. So I asked this latest whistleblower, Joseph Ziegler, if he ever saw that form as part of his investigation as the IRS agent on this case. Here's what he told me.
I had never seen that document before. So I'd never seen that 1023. And the reason why that 1023 might have been important is that can further validate some other evidence that we are trying to prove in the case. And that's why all information is necessary for especially the lead IRS case agent to have.
Jonathan, can you assess why that didn't land in his desk during this investigation that took 5 years?
Because they held it instead of actually bringing it forward. They didn't want to bring it forward because they didn't like what was already happening, and they wanted to actually usher in the likeness of Joe Biden into this seat.
No, they also testified that they were denied the ability to be debriefed on what was coming out of the FBI on this issue. And Bill Barr said that he sent this issue originally to Pittsburgh, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, rather than the FBI, found additional information that the FBI did not. And then they sent it to Delaware. And it's increasingly seems like the FBI is the place where evidence goes to die. I mean, you send evidence to the FBI. If it has the name Biden on it, it dies a very rapid death. And so we have no idea why this was not shared. The key about that 1023 is that it mirrors perfectly what the House committees have found. It describes how the Bidens preferred to use a labyrinth of accounts and banks to hide payments, that no payments would go to what it refers to as the big guy, a term we've seen on the laptop, and that this was all an effort to conceal these transactions. That's exactly what the committees have found in looking at the transactions from these banks. So there's no reason why this would be withheld, because it confirmed independent information that they had access to.
So, that 1023, if they would have actually released it and actually released it to the right people, so the FBI could have actually seen exactly what was actually happening with the funds that were being funneled through Ukraine, through China, and in and around to every other Biden on the planet, because there's other ones like Jeff. Uncle Jeff was there. Hunter wasn't the only one that actually picked up a whole shit ton of money from dealings that actually dealt with then Vice President Joe Biden, who had no right to do such a thing, but did it anyway because he was just ready in it so deep and so corrupt that he couldn't see himself past the billions and billions of dollars that he was already embezzled and caused to actually cause issues with what we're actually currently looking at. That FD 1023 should have actually been something that actually went away. So now, I've played this one several times, and go ahead and everybody remember this particular instance where Joe Biden actually did say these words.
I remember going over convincing our team or others to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time. Well,
really? Somebody that was solid, somebody that wasn't, that wasn't against the corruption. When it came down to it, knew exactly why you were there, and didn't believe that you actually had any type of pull whatsoever, and went ahead and actually said, okay, we'll do what you want, sir. We'll do what you want. And now look at where we're at. Now look at where we're at when it comes to the likeness of Joe Biden and what he's actually, how deep he is when it comes to the Ukraine. He funnel the money in, right back out to FTX, right back into my own back pocket. No big deal. No big deal. Nothing to see here. It's all right. We can do as we please because we don't care. We don't care. It's really so grossly disturbing to actually believe that, anybody would think that everything is okay. If you still think things are okay, they actually this current administration just got called out for their lies that they've actually been spreading for a great period of time. So this is Biden's top economic advisor gets fact checked in real time. We're going to actually go watch this video here. Check this. This is great. When I actually seen this, I'm like, oh, that's freaking hilarious.
Look, gas, here's a good way to think of it, because we've had rising wages and falling prices. A year ago, if you pulled up to the pump, you could get 5.5 gallons of gas for an hour of work for a middle wage worker. So you pull up to the pump, it takes you an hour of work to get 5.5 gallons. Now you get 8 gallons for that hour of work. Okay, so that's a 40+% improvement.
Okay.
And that's
a 40+ improvement. Holy crap. Heck yeah. We're doing good. We're much better off than we were back then. Yep. Not a problem. Yep. We're doing wonderful.
Talk about where we started, because when he took office, it was $2.39 a gallon. Now it's about $3.60 a gallon.
Not like calling him out for the exact cost of what it was before he took the presidency at $2.39. So the price is still up. Just because it went way up, to watch it come down, to think that it's okay now. It came down. All's good. No, it didn't come down. It's still up.
And so we're still in less than 2 years in a worse place.
So it depends on, it depends. I mean, it depends on what your benchmark is. So
it depends on what your benchmark is. Well, shit. Okay, so if we actually went off of a benchmark from way back, let's go back 20 years. Let's go back 30 years and see what gas prices were back then, when they were spending a nickel or a quarter. When my parents were still teenagers. Go back 60 years, 50 years, and look at it, and you'd actually be like, oh well, there's a dramatic increase. Oh, we're making more money now. No, we're not. The dollar isn't worth a shit. Don't fucking lie to us. I'm so sick of people lying to us. And he just got called out by Fox News. Again, fuck Fox News. I really hate Fox News when it comes down to it, but gets called out for it. And there you go. You get called out for your bullshit, and you're going to actually be like, well, I suppose if you put your benchmark way back then. Yes, that's where we put the benchmark. Right when this idiot president took the seat back on the 20th of January of 2020, and we actually see, or I'm sorry, 2021, and we actually see where this actually is now. Can we see it now? Can we actually see where this has actually gone, and how disturbing this actually really is, to actually think that they still believe that our economy is in better shape than it ever had been? It's not. It's not in better shape, and it's not going to be in better shape. They're lying to us. They're lying to us over and over again. Being that we're speaking of Biden in this shit economy that we're currently in, who believes that we're in a good economy? Does anybody seriously believe that we're actually in a decent economy at this point in time, that the economy is actually better off than where I'm actually saying it is? Let's leave a little poll here. So, little poll. Do you believe that the economy is better now than under Trump? Simple yes or no. We'll go ahead. We'll throw a little poll up there. A little bit of interaction for you. Go ahead, answer the question, and when we're done with this particular topic, or this particular article, we'll see where that poll's actually at here. So this is the previous Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, yes, in her bullshit. I
want to ask about the economy. Inflation, it looks good. When you look at the numbers. Inflation is down to just 3%. The labor market is steadily adding jobs. Wages are up. Consumer sentiment is the highest since September of 2021. Yeah. So there's a lot for President Biden to tout.
From September of 2021. So don't go all the way back to when the president initially took the seat. Don't look at it then. Let's go to September. Let's go out several months after the economy had already crashed, after inflation had already increased, after we were already sitting there trying to do things that we shouldn't have been doing, like allowing people to pour across the southern border over and over again. But, let's go ahead. Let's go with it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the question is about why Americans don't seem to be giving him the credit. A Quinnipiac poll this week found nearly 6 in 10 Americans still disapprove of his handling of the economy. Why is that, and what does he have to do to turn that around?
Well, a lot of it's about messaging, of course. I'm so proud of this president. In the 2 years that we were in the majority working with him, he broke all records on the level with a Lyndon Johnson or a Franklin Roosevelt in terms of the caliber of legislation that he passed for the good of the people, lowering prescription drugs.
Which prescription drugs did you lower? Oh, the insulin that was already at $35 under Trump, and then you went ahead and you actually took away his executive order to actually go and try redoing it yet one more time, to actually put it right back at the same spot. Oh, that one. Yes, let's go with that prescription drug.
Again, cutting in half, as you indicate, cutting in half unemployment.
So why isn't the American
almost
public
14
giving credit for
million jobs? There has to be messaged. It is a legitimate question. I ask myself all the time, too. This president did such a remarkable job. He is a person of such knowledge, such vision for the country, such knowledge of the issues.
Such knowledge, such vision. Yes, knowledge and vision of an 80-year-old. Knowledge and vision of an 80-year-old. Demented and can't see past his own fucking nose.
Such strategic thinking and such a legislator. And on top of it all, a person who connects with the American people. It just has to get out there. It's a busy job being president. I can say that as being speaker. You're doing your work, but he's just going to have to make sure the American people know at that kitchen table what this means to them in terms of.
Oh, the kitchen table talk that pisses me off every single time. Now, I sit around a kitchen table every night. Do you think we talk about the economy and how the government's actually working? Hell no. We talk about how was your day? Did you enjoy your day at work? what did you do today?
And pay, reducing inflation, as you indicated,
the economy,
lowest in the whole
talk. Stop it.
Western world.
Nancy Pelosi and her bullshit touts and blows her horn to think that, oh yes, our economy is so much better than it ever had been, and we should actually praise Joe Biden for everything that he's ever done. He's done so many good things for us. Wrong. He hasn't done a damn thing good for us, and he's not going to. Apparently I'm being a little loud, waking up the others in the house, so I'm going to try lowering my voice just a little bit, not get so excited and scream at the ridiculousness of, yes, just that PDF file. Yes, that guy. Try not being so loud.
Back to you.
So you hit the word that I want to get into, and that is hope. You go to war, you have strategy. You don't just take hope. You need both. You definitely need strategy. Jillian Turner, thank you. Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley says all of this cannot be ignored.
The key about that 1023 is that it
shit. I knew it. I knew I was going to have something that was going to be out of the the realm a little bit. It's still kind of similar. This should have been a couple articles before the economy talk or whatever. And
here's perfectly what the House committees have found. It describes how the Bidens preferred to use a labyrinth of accounts and banks to hide payments that no pay.
We already listened to this. I'm not listening to this guy again. Screw you, Jonathan Turley. Gone. Yeeted. That's what happens when you actually run shows like this and you actually, pay attention to so many news articles. You have the tendency just to bring up a whole ton of stuff, and, family comes into play first. So not always do I get the chance to keep myself in order. So then we're going to actually, this is Plaskett. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is what she's going to do. I get it. I couldn't remember what she was actually about. So, she speaks of the weaponization committee. That was, something that.
Well, first of all, they want to talk about.
So anybody that doesn't know who Plaskett really is, she's from the Virgin Islands. She is a representative of the Virgin Islands, but she's a non-voting member of the Republic of the House of Representatives. So as far as it goes with what she's actually is speaking of, she's actually going to speak of Democrats should actually be able to actually be the ones to actually create laws and rules
anytime
and
you point out untruths, you're censoring, you're stopping people from speaking. It's not that we're not stopping people from speaking. People can speak, but we're also going to give the American people the truth so that they can have science and facts and history against wild, outlandish claims that the Republicans are trying to get. That's not only going to keep them.
Which history would you like to actually speak of? Should I grab the history book that's sitting behind me? We can actually open it up and actually look at where the Democrats came from, how the Democrats actually went ahead and actually created and sown the division so deeply into this economy that we're actually dealing with the nation that we're actually in, or are we going to actually allow the likeness of this lady to actually go ahead and say, oh, Democrats are the ones that get to choose the words that you get to say?
From going to the polls or suppressing vote or telling untruths, but is also really very detrimental to the American people.
That look that comes across Jen Psaki's face as as she puckers up to actually look like she's ready to actually kiss somebody's butt for what it's worth. For them to actually go ahead and make believe that they're going to actually go ahead and be the ones that actually get to choose the words that we actually get to speak, and they get to choose what's the truth. How is it that they get to choose what's the truth? I don't get. It's not how it works, and it should never work that way. It's not fair for them to actually think that they're the ones that are actually get to dictate who gets to say what, when, where, why. It's not how it is. So we're gonna kind of move on just a little bit. We're gonna actually move to Karine Jean-Pierre, this cringe speaker in this press briefing from today. She answers a couple questions that are off color, and it really seriously makes you think about it, about what she actually said. So about 20 minutes worth of video. So I'm not going to try talking over it as much as I should. I'm not going to stop it to talk. I'm just going to talk right over the top of her because she's not worth listening to half the time anyway.
What he continues to do, political stunts, and in any there needs to be on and that question. Okay. Did they
come on? Let's take questions.
Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad. And one of the things that you've heard us say before, and I'll reiterate, the core of that relationship is certainly on democratic values, a shared democratic values and interests, and that will continue to be the case. President Biden has had been a friend of Israel for decades. It is a personal relationship, is a lifelong friend of Israel, as I mentioned in my statement
Sure
that came
he
out
is.
moments ago. And we are going to continue to engage our Israeli counterparts to try and strengthen that special bond, and that certainly will be the plan going forward.
No, it's not.
On a separate topic, is there any better sense of Private King's well-being and health, the general conditions he's currently in? And then also, is there any better sense of his motivations when he fled? Was his intention to defect?
So on the last question first, we're still gathering and looking into this, and DOD certainly, as we
So
mentioned, is
there was a
doing
young
investigation,
man that
to get
actually
that all
went
facts.
ahead,
Don't have anything to share on anything that's been reported on
escaped
the reasons
into
otherwise. Whatever
North
it is, we're
Korea.
looking into it.
That's
It's
what
gonna
they're
take some time
speaking
to
of.
get that information. More broadly, to your question, the
They
White
don't
House, the
know
Department of
enough,
Defense, State, the UN are all
and they're
committed
unable to
continue
actually
work
bring him
together
back
on this
at this
matter, to
point in
ascertain
time.
information, as I just mentioned, to get all the facts about the well-being and the whereabouts of Private King. We have relayed messages through multiple channels to the DPRK that the individual crossed on his own, and we want him returned quickly, and we want him to be returned safely. So we also asked
They're not going to
information on
return
his
him.
welfare. Just don't have anything else to share on this.
They're going to do whatever they
Follow
can
on
to get
Israel,
answers out of
We
him.
saw the president's comments over the weekend, your remarks today. Now that this vote has happened, does the president have any plans to speak to Netanyahu today or in the coming days just to convey those thoughts to him directly?
Don't have anything to share on any upcoming conversation or calls that the president will be having.
Netanyahu just had
Texas,
a
Governor
pacemaker
Adams
put
responded
in
to the
within the
administration's
last 2 days.
did to the Department of Justice's letter saying Texas will see you in court, Mr. President. Your response, and can you give us a sense of what comes next here, how quickly this may play out?
So I'm going to let the Department of Justice speak to this. They've been very clear last week that they also will see.
I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to deflect, and I'm going to actually make you go speak to somebody else.
When we move forward with a plan, right? A plan of deterrence, diplomacy, and also enforcement with how we were going to move forward after Title 42 was lifted.
Now, the one thing that really irritates me about this lady is her choice of clothing. And when it comes down to it, you can see that she's had a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction with her collar. And she's not going to fix it. It's going to actually be annoying for the rest of the show. Midnight Toker, good to see you. Glad you're here.
We actually saw the numbers go down. We actually saw the president's plan working. And what you see,
you have the right to
doing
your
is dangerous and
opinion,
unlawful, and
Midnight
it's actually
Toker. I'm
hurting the
not going to
process.
tell
It's
you
hurting the
that
process of what
your
we're trying to
opinion's
do.
wrong.
And instead of wanting to, or undermining, I should say, instead of coming to the table and trying to figure out a way to work together, he continues to do this really cruel, unjust, inhumane ways of moving forward with a system that has been broken for decades. This is a president that has taken action from day one and has continued to show what he can do to help deal with the border situation. But Governor Abbott is not about that. And so the Department of Justice has been very clear. We've been very clear about that. They've been very clear about taking him to court about his unlawful actions. So I'm going to let them speak to it.
Thanks, Karine. You're talking about these unlawful actions, and the letter very clearly spells out all the ways in which the governor has broken the law. What is preventing the federal government from removing the river barriers? Why is this a legal matter?
Well, first, I'm going to let the Department of Justice speak to this. And look, the governor's action is making it
Again,
difficult to access
deflect
the river,
into the Department
patrol
of
the area.
Justice because
That's what
she
he's
doesn't
doing,
want to speak of it.
and arrest individuals who attempt to enter the country unlawfully. That's what his actions is actually preventing. And so those are unlawful. Those are unlawful actions that are not helpful and is undermining what the president has put forward and is trying to do. That's what we're seeing. But I'm going to let the Department of Justice
What he's trying to do,
and they will
what he's
certainly
trying to
speak more
do
in
is
detail about what
is
how
allow
they see
more and more
themselves moving
people come into the
I mean,
United
the
States.
barriers are, unlawfully
We've had
there in the river.
too
Why not
many
instruct the
millions
Army
of people
Corps of
come
Engineers to move
across
them?
that border.
I'm not going to speak to what's
Not going to speak
going
to
be
it.
instructed of the Army
I
Corps of
don't want to
Engineers.
speak
What
to
we're
it, and I
speaking
have no
is the
reason to
unlawful
speak
actions
to it
that the governor is taking and
because
how the Department of Justice is going to move forward.
cringe
Anything related to
and
that,
don't
certainly I would
like
refer
to
you
actually
Homeland
speak the
Security
truth.
specifically.
A quick one on Private King.
Right,
Does he have
Karine?
security clearance?
I can't speak to his national security clearance from here. That's not
I
something
can't
can
speak
but I would
to
refer
it.
you to the Department of Defense.
Of not, yep, Department of Defense. There you
Chairman
go.
James Comer today says that the Oversight Committee, has evidence that the president in the past communicated directly with foreign business associates of his son Hunter Biden many times. Curious if the White House and the president still stand behind his comment that he's never been involved and has never even spoken to his son about his.
So I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son. I just don't have anything else to add.
Oh,
Has the,
he's never in
president been
business
given
with his
options
son
for how
ever.
to physically
Okay.
remove the
Good to
barriers?
know.
Is that part of
Good
the
to know. We
briefing
didn't
for
just
him?
watch something a
And
little
on a
bit
separate
ago that
matter,
kind of showed
the
that he might have
Ohio,
actually
police
been
department that deployed
in
a
business
dog,
with his son.
July 4th, when a motorist was stopped. Has the president been briefed on that particular situation? And do you have any comment on that?
So I don't have any updates on or any thing to share about the president being updated on the Ohio situation. I saw the stories. I'm going to let certainly. I believe there's an investigation. They're looking into it. It sounds horrific, but I don't want to go beyond that. But it does sound horrific as to what happened. And as it relates to what the president's been updated on options to remove the barriers, I just don't have anything specific for you on that.
Is the president concerned about the direction of democracy in Israel after the passage of this judicial reform bill today?
So look, as I said at the top, and I said in my statement, the relationship, right, with Israel is a lifelong friendship, right? A relationship that the president specifically has had since he entered.
Sure, just the president. Nobody else has had a relationship with the guy.
Certainly, we believe that relationship.
Nobody else has had a relationship with Israel. It's just that we fund such a thing as an Iron Dome that we, continuously fund over and over again, so that Israel can stay safe from the bombardments from
Led to the president's
Hamas.
decision
Okay.
to finally designate this national monument for Emmett Till and his mother, but groups have been advocating for it since the Obama era. So why now?
So I don't have a timeline as to why now, but look, we're about to actually acknowledge the 82nd birthday of Emmett Till tomorrow. And why not? Why not tomorrow? Why not on a day that matters in recognizing him? And look, I think I had said this is like a fourth national monument. Certainly, the president has taken this very seriously when it comes to national monuments, when it comes to lifting up really important, in this case, historical importance.
Yeah, we tear down other history.
Sadly, Emmett Till's
so that we don't learn about that history, because that history is
how
unnecessary
else
to
there
learn
are many
about.
ways we can lift up his memory, but this is an important way to do that. This is something that the president can do, and the president's going to do tomorrow.
Did you say Barbie or Oppenheimer this week?
I knew I was going to get that question.
Yeah,
I did
sure
not,
you did.
But it heard that it did very well. I knew I was going to get that question. Okay. Did you see Barbie?
I did.
You did? Did you see both movies back to back?
I'm more of a Barbie person, so just Barbie.
Okay. All right.
Karine, I wanted to ask about the meeting with Netanyahu. I know you had said there's some
Important
conversations.
question.
We're not getting that, but will the vote here impact whether or not he would be invited to the White House specifically?
So look, those conversations are continuing. The president was clear last week and said that they both wanted to see each other by the end, later this year. And so that conversation between the two teams are going to continue. Look, I'll say this, President Biden and Prime Minister have a decades-long relationship, as I've been saying, and they've always been very candid with each other and discussed shared interests, and also have shared their concerns as well, and just like they did last week.
There's an awful lot of people that are just like into knowing and wanting to know if he actually spoke with.
I would assure you that they will continue to have those honest conversations,
because
that they will
that's
continue
important.
to
It's super important that he actually had that
continue to talk
conversation
about the situation that's currently happening in Israel, and that's not going to change, and continue to have that political dialogue.
On a different topic, given the extreme heat that's been going on in states like Arizona, Texas, has there been any consideration from the White House to put out an emergency declaration?
I don't have anything on emergency declaration or anything new about that. As you all know, the president on Thursday is going to receive an update on extreme heat and what's been happening, extreme weather, what's been happening across the country, and so you all will have an opportunity.
It must be
to
global
hear
warming.
the update that he's been receiving. I just don't have anything on a proclamation.
All the officials in Arizona.
It's not that it's summer,
but obviously we have an intergovernmental affairs office here that stays in close touch with officials, state officials, statewide officials, local officials in those states, and offer up any assistance that we can. I've talked about many times about what we're doing to assist, whether it's cooling stations, and what FEMA is able to do to assist certain areas in the country that is dealing with extreme weather, and we'll continue to do that. Okay.
Thanks, Karine. The president urged Israeli leaders to compromise your attempt to find consensus on judicial reform. They did neither of those. So has the president reached the limits of his influence on the Israeli political process?
Will call magic. Welcome. Glad you're here.
That I put out. And again, lifelong friendship. It is unfortunate that the vote today took place with the slimmest possible majority. And we understand talks are ongoing. Let's not forget that. They're ongoing and likely to continue over the coming weeks and months to forge a broader compromise, which is what the president has been calling for these past several months, even when Knesset is in recess. So that's what we understand. Brother. So the United States, we will continue to support the efforts of President Herzog and other Israeli leaders as they seek to build a broader consensus through political dialogue. That's what we're going to continue to support, and we understand that the conversation is
Hey, Danielle.
Given the fact that they are still considering other components of this judicial reform, is the president going to continue to speak out, urging consensus and compromise? And is he willing to go further? Is he willing to put anything else behind this other than rhetoric? I mean, the U.S. gives Israel billions of dollars in aid a year. Is he willing to put that on the line to try and get the outcome that he'd like to see in Israel?
I wouldn't say it's just rhetoric. When the president speaks, it sends a message. And not only that, it's not just rhetoric. He's had private conversations with the prime minister. He's had conversations, a bilateral meeting with the president of Israel, President Herzog, just last week.
Let's talk about the president of Israel, because he just had a pacemaker put in. We should all be concerned if he's actually going to be something legitimate.
And so that's what we believe, understand is going to happen, or is happening, and we're going to continue to support those efforts.
And does the president intend to nominate a new ambassador to Israel? I believe the most recent ambassador, Tom Nice, just ended his tenure. There's a chargé currently in charge. Is he having plans to nominate someone, given everything that's unfolded?
Yeah, I understand the question. Just don't have anything new to share at this time.
And lastly, another quick topic. Does the president still believe that UPS
I'm going to actually deflect, and I'm going to allow you to go speak to somebody else.
They have had some progress in their negotiations and their conversation, which is really important. They're going back to the table. They're going back to negotiating tomorrow, which also is very important. So we are hopeful. We are optimistic on this issue.
Questions following up on Texas. Is there anything that the White House thinks that it can do about the razor wire and the barriers aside from this threatened legal action that the Department of Justice has sent to the state of Texas?
So look, we've been very clear.
No, they want them in place because they're sick of seeing the mass amount of people crossing that river and coming into the United States.
Right? We've seen the numbers of unlawful entry go down. That's what the data shows, and he continues to undermine that. And so, Department of Justice is the place to go. Right? This is a legal issue, and they're going to deal with this, and we'll let them speak.
As we're not just dealing with people coming across that border just from Mexico or South America in itself. Some 150 countries are sending their people up and over and around the southern border.
But Governor Abbott is not. He's not moving forward in good faith. He's just not. There's no good faith effort here in what Governor Abbott is doing.
Yeah, there is. He's actually stopping and preventing multiples from actually being able to actually continue to do what they're doing. He's
actively undermining our border enforcement plan, which again has the lowest level of unlawful border crossings in over 2 years. He's making this more difficult. And so he's not operating in good faith here. That's my answer.
And lastly, you had said that they could just come to the table potentially and talk about this. When was the last time that President Biden tried calling Governor Abbott?
Let's be very clear. Governor Abbott is making it harder for the men and women of the Border Patrol by what he's doing. He's making it harder for the people who are supposed to work to protect.
He's making it harder, or he put something in place that would make it easier because there's no more people actually coming across the border.
So, I get the question, but he's literally operating in bad faith. That's what the governor is doing. While we're trying to fix and deal with an issue, a broken system, an immigration system that has broken for decades, and he's undermining it. Good, Karen.
Does the administration have any response to
You're fixing it by leaving it wide open.
So a couple things on that, on the launch.
Sounds good.
From us, we certainly condemn the DPRK's ballistic missile launches. These launches are in violation of multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions and pose a threat to the DPRK's neighbors and the international community. We remain committed to a diplomatic approach to the DPRK.
Just keep on dumping missiles into the Sea of Japan. No big deal. No big deal.
Let's go back to the heat briefing. Since it's on his public schedule already for this week, can you give us any more guidance on who will be giving him that briefing?
I don't have any more details. Certainly, as we get closer to Thursday, we'll provide more information. Jeff, I haven't seen you in a while.
Thursday.
Welcome back.
Question about Russia, which you mentioned earlier. Russia has said today that it's considering retaliatory measures against Ukraine for 2 drone strikes that hit buildings in the Moscow area, or in Moscow, I should say. What's your reaction both to Ukraine's drone strikes and also the threat of retaliation?
So a couple of things. This is a war that Russia started. This is their war. They started this war.
No, it's not.
And they could end it. You hear us say this all the time. They can end it at any time, by withdrawing forces from Ukraine instead of launching brutal attacks on civilians, on Ukraine cities. And that's what they do, doing every day on this brutal attack.
So not the civilians, the cities.
Russia has been bombarding the Ukrainian port of Odessa, killing and injuring Ukrainian civilians, devastating UNESCO-listed World Heritage sites, as I mentioned at the top, and destroying tens of thousands of tons of grain that were going to be shipped to countries around the world. And we have been clear, as you asked me about the Ukrainian drone strikes and what we make of this. And so, look, on the drone strikes in Moscow, we've been clear that
good question, Tweety.
We do not support attacks inside of Russia, but we also have been very clear clear that Crimea is indeed Ukraine. And so again, this is something that when it comes to this war, as we all know, Russia started this war and they can end this today. But what we will continue to do, we'll continue to provide security assistance to Ukraine as we have been for more than 15 months.
Good faith is the
as
middle
they are
name.
fighting for their freedom, fighting for their sovereignty. And so that is our commitment to Ukraine. You saw that at the NATO summit from all 31 leaders just recently, 10 days ago, the last time we recently traveled. And you'll continue to see that from this president. And not just this president, but our NATO allies as well and partners across the country.
Getting back to Israel, I've read your statements about the vote. Are you reluctant to call the judicial reform?
Maybe even 33 if
we've
we
been
allow
we've been
Ukraine.
very clear. Any changes like these that were to happen to policy changes needed a broad consensus. The president has been very, very clear.
Is it really just about the consensus, or is it about what the policy is?
It's about what majority of the people in Israel want, right? It needs that's what a broad consensus is, right? It needs the support of the broader community, if you will, in Israel. That is what we have been very clear about. And you saw from the president's statement that instead of being less divisive, this is the president's statement yesterday, it became more divisive. And so we are, it is unfortunate that the vote happened today. It took place with the slimmest possible majority. And so look, as we understand it, it's going to be ongoing. There's going to be continued talks over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months, and that's what we want to see.
On the call with Biden and Netanyahu last week, Axios reported that Biden told Netanyahu he isn't the only one who's concerned about where the prime minister is taking Israel. Many Americans are too. Can you share more about the candor that the president expressed on Americans' public opinion?
So I'm not going to get into private conversations. There was a readout, so I'll point you to the readout that we put out of the call that the president had with the prime minister. Look, I also said moments ago they've always had candid conversations, the two of them. They've known each other for a very long time, and they've discussed shared interests as well as concerns that they both have had. And so I think I'll just leave it there for now.
Thank you. I have a question about Guatemala, but first on Spain. There were general elections yesterday, and the two major parties did not win enough seats in the parliament to form a government. So I was wondering if you had a comment on the results, and specifically if the United States is concerned about political instability.
So we congratulate the people of Spain on their elections yesterday. The United States will continue to work closely with any government that emerges from the electoral process, as we have worked with Spanish governments in the past, to advance our shared goals and mutual interests.
Sorry, do you have any comment on Guatemala on the recent events, and specifically on the political
raid,
the police raid, that took place on Friday on one of the offices of the candidates to the presidential elections?
In Spain?
For Guatemala.
Sorry. No worries. I thought you were still asking about Spain. A couple of things there. So look, we are deeply concerned by ongoing efforts to interfere with the elections in Guatemala. Guatemalans deserve the right to vote for their preferred candidate between the certified winners of the first round of elections on June 25th without any interference. Threats to arrest election officials or party officials threaten to undermine Guatemala's democratic process. So we're closely monitoring the developments with our regional partners and international organization ahead of the August 20th runoff. Guatemalan authorities can show leadership by ending this assault, on the basic democratic freedoms of the Guatemalan people, and the world is indeed watching.
Yes, let's install another World Economic Forum shill to yet another country. Sounds perfect.
As you will. Mary Frances Berry, former head of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, said this is not the first time that the history and the truth of Black America has been obscured, had revisionist history, and as you said, lied on. How do you marry these two moments with the president's announcement tomorrow? Is there those who believe, one, that African American history has been lied on, propagated by this administration? How do you make this a significant moment, as it was in history, for those in this moment who don't believe it?
So the president has made it very clear. We cannot pick or choose our history. We can't. We should learn everything about our history, the good and the ugly. The president has said this over and over again.
Yeah, right? But
and he's made that very clear.
When you refuse to teach history, and instead, in plenty of states, use Minnesota, for example.
It was a significant.
It took away history classes.
Event that led to the civil rights movement, and we need to continue to tell that story.
Tell installed something called CRT,
and what she tried to do to make sure that,
which isn't really history.
What he went through was not lost.
It's bullshit.
As we talk about the civil rights movement, as we talk about Emmett Till's story, this is American history.
It's a lie.
And it is the broader story of American Black oppression, the survival, and the bravery in America. All of that is connected. And so, yes, it's an important moment. You're going to hear directly from the president tomorrow. So I would certainly say to you to tune in. He'll speak to this more specifically.
Oh, yeah, we get to hear from the president
tomorrow. What I can promise you is that, this administration is certainly committed to making sure that we tell America's and this nation's complete story. And that's what you've seen from this president over and over again.
How do you plan to do that beyond tomorrow? Because this is not stopping from Florida to everywhere else. How do you plan to continue to tell the story? As again, there's still segments of society who I don't want to hear it, but believe it's a lie.
So a couple of things. You heard from the vice president directly, right? She gave a very forceful rebuke of what is going on in Florida under that governor's leadership. And so that's something that you're going to continue to hear. You're going to continue to hear from this administration speaking out and being very clear about how dangerous that type of rhetoric is to our country and to our history. So you'll hear that. I think tomorrow is an important moment coming from this administration, showing and lifting up a story of Emmett Till by acknowledging, making sure we continue to acknowledge what he went through. The
we
event
get to
that happened
actually,
again, the civil rights movement.
put Emmett
And
Till
so
back
that
up on
monument
a
is
podium.
important. I
Yeah,
think it's
one more
important,
time.
for the president to be able to do this, the fourth one in his administration. So you'll hear directly from the president, and he'll continue to speak to this. One of the 4 crises that he talked about when he walked into this administration was racial injustices, what we were seeing in this country, and how we needed to continue to fight, and we needed to continue to uplift what we're seeing across the country over the past couple of
Which
years.
is
Not just
a
couple of
lie.
years,
Which
but
is a
over
lie.
what we have seen over the past
For you to
decade.
actually
And
continue
so
to
this is a
push
president that doesn't
that
shy away from that and is
racism is
going to continue to
actually
speak up.
thing.
HBCUs. The HBCU White House Council is expected to meet and issue a letter for the president this week. And they were, the way I understand it, they were pulling it together before the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action admissions. And also understanding a large component of it is about capacity. Is the president concerned about capacity for historically Black colleges and universities that is already struggling with this influx of students? And now
I always think about Morgan Freeman when they start talking about racism and stuff like
So
that
a
or
lot there.
whatever.
Look, we're going to continue to monitor.
Stop
To your
talking
point
about
the
it and
capacity,
it'll go away.
Certainly, we're going to monitor that closely. As you stated in your question there to me, April,
'Cause it
this
doesn't
is,
really
we had already seen
exist.
record applicant increases before the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action. So that's something that we had seen, as you mentioned. And what I can say is that the president certainly, of course, is committed to doing everything that we can to assist HBCUs. As you know, we've awarded a historic amount of funding to HBCUs, about $7 billion. I think that shows our commitment to making sure that HBCUs continue to thrive and they have the resources that they need.
Yes.
But as it relates to
Camel
increase of
Toe
applicants,
says anything about Florida, don't listen to it.
and I'll just add,
She's not worth a damn.
we have the White House of
She's
Public
not worth a
Engagement here,
damn whatsoever,
who is going to
and
continue
maybe
to
needs to
remain
actually
in close
be
contact with HBCUs
removed.
as we have for the last 2 years.
I have 2 questions about the Global South.
Impeached
First of all, the Russia-Africa Summit
the
is happening
president.
this week. President Putin has offered to African countries a low-cost grain deal, selling them cheap grain from Russia. Is that a solution that the White House would support to get around the expiration of the grain deal, or would you like to see these countries agitate for a full return to the grain deal? And
I mean, I've been
I'm
very
not
clear at the
going to
top,
answer to that.
that Russia needs to go back to the agreement that we had on the grain deal. I mean, that's what I said at the top. That's what we want to see.
Whose
That's the
grain
solution,
deal
that's
is
the
it?
answer. That's what we are
Yours?
going to continue
The United States really had something to do with the grain deal?
So Algeria
It wasn't
and
just
Egypt, which are two
between
partners of the US, the first
Russia
lady
and
visited
Ukraine
recently, have
themselves?
applied to join BRICS, which, as you know, is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and represents kind of a non-alignment force that stands
I'm with you,
against
Tony.
Western hegemony. So
Get
how do
rid
you
of
feel
this
about
trash
that?
administration.
So we have a couple of things here. First, I would refer you to the countries to speak on their own about their diplomatic engagement. That is something that they should certainly speak to that on their own. And for our part, we lead in our engagement with an affirmative agenda focused on demonstrating the benefits of our governance and economic models. U.S. policy does not ask our partners to choose between the United States and other countries. We have repeatedly emphasized that the U.S. does not want to limit countries' partnership with other countries, but we want countries to have choices on how to deliver results to their citizens as well. I'll also add, we've talked about this a couple times already, that Russia will be forced to explain itself when it meets with African countries about why they decided to stop participating in the Black Sea Grain Initiative, as you just asked me moments ago. Like, that's what we want to see. We want them to get back into the initiative, the Black Sea Grain Initiative. And look, Russia's actions this past week, as I mentioned already, which include the blockading of Ukrainian ports to stop the export of grains and critical food products, and bombing grain stockpile shortages facilities, have increased the price of food in many places throughout the world, and it will hurt regions such as the Horn of Africa as well. So, many people around the world will find it harder to afford basic food,
United States,
as well as a result of Russia's
Canada,
actions. And so I imagine
multiple
that this will be
other
a topic of
countries in the
discussions,
EU
this week, and so we'll see.
That was the easiest way from the ship
Chairman of the House
stuff
Foreign
out.
Relations Committee, Foreign Affairs Committee.
Poland said they didn't
has
want
expressed
nothing to
opposition
do with
US
it.
officials traveling to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. Who were those officials? Can you confirm the meeting with somebody from the White House?
I don't have anything to confirm or lay out for you as to who attended.
That's great. We heard before President Trump last week saying he received a target letter from Special Counsel Jack Smith. There's a speculation with the grand jury meeting this week, and that could come at any time. Over the weekend, the former president posted a series of ominous social media accounts suggesting that it's a very dangerous thing to even think about charging him with a crime, saying another one, if you do something bad to us, we're going to do things to you that have never done before. So what is the level of concern at the White House that the former president is trying to incite violence? And secondly, what steps have there been for the White House, federal government to speak to local and other law enforcement officers to prepare?
So look, first, I'm going to be very careful. As you know, Donald Trump is a candidate, as we all know, for 2024. So not going to speak to those comments directly, but I can say that the president
you don't want to
and the
you don't want to
administration
mess
is
up your
always
own
keeping
hatch
us,
act, right?
and is always going to be ready for anything that might occur or may occur. And certainly, we are always keeping a close eye. But I'm just not going to speak directly to what the former president has to say.
It's like most things, you don't speak directly
Thanks,
to.
Kareem. So I want to ask you about appliances, but first, this is a big week for the economy. The Federal Reserve will likely raise rates again on Wednesday, putting the interest rates into a range we had for 2007. So are high interest rates and about 2% growth a side effect of Bidenomics?
I'm just not going to get into what the Federal Reserve is going to make a decision on or not. They are independent. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals from here. They have the independence we give them the independence to make sure that they make monetary decisions.
Because you don't know or you don't care.
Look, what I can say is Bidenomics
Or
is
you
about
hadn't
making sure
asked
that
the
we build an
question.
economy that doesn't leave anybody behind. right? When you see the data, when you see that inflation has indeed come down,
Bidenomics doesn't really
has come
exist.
down the
It's
last
just a
12 months,
word that they've used
and
to
that's
actually
important. That's what
try
the data has
making you
showed,
think that our
is
current
important. And also,
economy is
while
actually
wages are
better
going
than
up,
it actually
and so this
was.
is Bidenomics at
And
work.
it's really
This is what
not.
this is the president's policies, making sure again that we build an economy from the bottom up, middle out.
Didn't
I'm not going to get
UK
into the Federal
admit
Reserve, the decision
to
that they may or may not make.
blowing
That is
up
up to them. They are
the
independent.
bridge that
Appliances. So from this administration, we've seen gas
supplies?
stoves, air conditioning units with regulation, refrigerators, washing machines, dishwashers, now water heaters.
Not sure.
How many more home appliances will Americans eventually have to replace then with this regulation?
So just to be clear, when it comes to water heaters, and,
Everything. Everything that
it
you
is
actually
proposed,
own
what
in
has
your
been put forward,
house, your,
and if
your
it is
heaters,
enacted,
your
it would
water
not take
heaters,
into
your
effect until 2029.
thermostats,
So let's not forget
your
that.
gas
So we
stoves,
want to make sure that we have the facts out there. And if and when it
gas
is
powered
enacted, it's going to
generators,
help consumers save about $11 billion.
anything and everything
That's
they
what the
can
president wants to
possibly
do. He wants
limit,
to make sure that
they're
we lower
going to.
costs for the American people. That's why the Inflation Reduction Act is so important, right? Because it's going to provide
Because
up to
it's
$2,000 in
trash.
credit as it relates to energy.
It's not worth
So
the
those are the
paper
things
that it's
the president
printed
is
on.
focused on. But again, if enacted, it wouldn't be enacted until 2029. And if it is enacted, to add to that, consumers would save $11 billion a year.
So my toaster is safe.
If enacted. If enacted
The administration
by
has been very
2029.
forceful in denouncing the efforts to restrict and revise history in some cases, but has it explored going further? For example, the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus told us he was calling on the administration to leverage the Education Department, which can restrict federal funds, or the Justice Department in states that are attempting to restrict
I hear you, Midnight
history,
Talker.
Black history and slavery are taught.
So I don't have anything new to share about policy changes that we would be making as it relates to your question. What I can say to you is that this is a president that has shown his commitment over the last 2 years when it comes to education, even when it comes to when the affirmative action by SCOTUS was when that decision was made. You heard directly and specifically from this president. You've heard from the vice president in Florida. So we have been very vocal, very clear about where we stand when it comes to either affirmative action, when it comes to banning of books, when it comes to putting forth a teaching curriculum that is indeed dangerous, to our American history. And so that's what you're going to continue to hear from this president. And he'll never shy away from that. Neither will the vice president.
During the
Because he's going to actually spread his pedophilia as much as he possibly can, because that's what he's about.
Masks, etc. Is that at all on the table?
I don't have any policy updates for you to share at this time. As you know, COVID when the president walked into this administration, we had thousands of people dying a day from COVID. And he had to put forward a comprehensive plan to make sure that we got the economy going and that we make sure that we took care of Americans. And
By the way, we're not doctors or lawyers or anything in between.
That was a different
We're
time,
just
clearly,
another person on the internet living an opinion.
Thanks.
And
on the situation at the border,
whatever she said
talked about the
was
reports
not my
about migrant women
thoughts.
being denied water, but there's also recent reports of children being bloodied by razor wire. Are there any plans for the president to address this himself to the country or even to reporters at all?
I think it's important that the Department of Justice is assessing this. I think it's important that the Department of Justice is looking into these types of unlawful actions. I think it's important, as the president's White House press secretary, that I've spoken multiple times here at this podium, especially last week, about how unlawful and how
She's
inhumane
almost done.
Governor Abbott's actions has been. And so we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to move forward with our plan that actually moves forward with dealing in immigration in a humane way. We've been always very clear about that. As we move forward in dealing with this immigration issue, we have to do it in a humane way, and that's what we've seen. That's why we've expanded legal pathways. That's why we've made sure that we've had diplomatic conversation. That's why we made sure that we've had enforcement at the border to make sure the unlawful process of this is dealt with. And so that's what you've seen. I think if you look at the president's actions, that says everything that you need to know to the question that you're asking me.
Oh, now you're going to lie?
This administration, the president put forth a comprehensive
that's what you've been doing the whole time. Thank you.
That has been
Thank you for lying to us.
Broken system for decades.
You ignorant,
wanting to do it in a
bitch.
humane way. When you have a governor who is undermining the process and doing it in a way that is not in good faith, we're going to call that out too. I'm going to let the Department of Justice deal with that.
For him to actually.
What I'm saying is the president, I feel that he has been very, very clear about this by taking actions, by being vocal many times on this, and has said we need to do this in the right way. We need to do this in a humane way. And that's what you're going to continue to see from this administration. And you've seen that in actions from this administration. All right, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Karine. Thank you for lying to us. Thank you for bringing us a bunch of lies, a bunch of bullshit, and a bunch of absolutely nothing that was worth a point at all, other than the fact that it gave me a couple times to actually speak my point about the negativity and the lies that she's actually been spreading for a great period of time. Thank you so much for allowing that to occur later, you ignorant riach. Okay, so I do have her in the. I did put her up in there. So, anybody have any questions about anything that she actually said before I actually move on? I'll give you a few moments to actually do so while I bring this next article up here, or this next video. The next video is actually a little bit shorter than that one. She did not impress me once again. Yeah, as she never does. I like to actually bring her up at least like once a month so we don't forget who she is. And actually, you know, go ahead and listen to her and listen to the bullshit that she actually spreads. Praxis sees you over on the Rumble side. Says, nice beard, dude. Not critical. Actually think it's legit. Thanks. Glad that you enjoy that. I've been working on it for a few years, and it's a work in process, and I enjoy it very much so. Again, I'll give you a few seconds yet to actually ask any questions if there is any that I can try answer. No, I can't stand her lies. I'm with you, Will Call. Really, seriously, I'm totally with you when it comes down to it. She's ignorant. When it comes down to anything that she really does have to say, she's usually to the point where she doesn't actually tell us anything legitimate. She always deflects and say, I'm going to actually appoint you to the Department of Justice or the Department of Education or the Department of whatever else to actually ask that question. You should go ask them. Though I'm the press secretary and I'm the one that's supposed to ask the question so that when you have a question to ask, to answer you, I don't have the answers and I refuse to try answering you in any way, shape, or form. Other than to give you some kind of bullshit of, you know, I suggest that you go talk to them. Just go talk to them. Maybe, you know, the press secretary really shouldn't even be somebody to even exist. And maybe, just maybe, somebody can actually find a press secretary that's worth a damn. The last press secretary that I thought was actually decent was Kayleigh McEnany, which was Trump's, and his second one, and she was actually decent. Not that Sarah Huckabee wasn't decent, but I really seriously, when it comes down to it, I really find cringe Jean-Pierre really seriously just that, very, very cringe. Endgame actual questions. Endgame of petulant morons which have no objective. Endgame of petulant morons which have no objective. Destruction, total, absolute destruction of what is Western civilization and what it's actually been made to be is actually going to be gone. I believe that's where the Democrats' main objective really is, and I don't see them actually being anything, us actually getting out of it anytime soon. Even reinstalling somebody like Donald Trump may still be a long shot and may still not fix the issues, as you know, sometimes some of the things that he did may actually be questionable. He did do quite a few things that were actually good. There is a fairly legit list of things that he actually did that were actually good, but what he had accomplished, and I don't, again, though I have a flag that says Trump 2024, I'm still going to listen to both sides, and I'm going to listen as much as I possibly can. Okay, so you're not a moron. No, I'm not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I listen to both sides, and I'll actually be very critical of both sides, as it needs to be. As it needs to be. So then, no questions off the YouTube side? All right. I'm going to actually kick this up. Did UK admit blowing up the bridge? I don't know about that one. I really don't. If you have information about that, about, you know, blowing up a bridge that brought them supplies, I mean, are you talking like London Bridge is coming down? I mean, I really don't know. I'd have to actually know what you're actually speaking of. Only the stupid make war. Yes, no new wars under Donald Trump. He had no new wars whatsoever. And when it comes down to it, we watched Biden, the second that he actually took office, actually do just that. This is a little thing about Nimrata Haley, aka Nikki Haley. A little 6-minute little video. Let's make sure that this is a normal speed. I'll believe it when I see it. Yep. Totally. That's the best way to do it. Hello, Rumbler, says P. Beaver. Welcome. Glad you're here. Good to see you.
Look at this. A new Fox Business poll shows Donald Trump with a commanding lead in South Carolina.
And so this is just in South Carolina primary voters alone. This isn't any other. And of course, Nikki Haley is going to have an advantage in South Carolina. She's totally going to have some kind of an advantage in South Carolina, but still South Carolinians have actually gone to the point of 48% actually liking Donald Trump over and above Nikki Haley at 14 and DeSantis at 13. For whatever reason, Vivek Ramaswamy's all the way down at the 3%, whereas other polls have actually showed Vivek Ramaswamy actually climbing up and over the top of DeSantis in his own in some polls. Again, these are just polls. You just never know if the polls are being projected correctly or not.
Nikki Haley is in second place, and she is 34 points
clown show is
behind
all around
Trump
us.
in South Carolina. And look who's here in the studio with me, Nikki Haley.
He says, wait, Mike Pence is on that list. Yes, Mike Pence is on the list. He is one of the 13 Republican contenders for this nomination for president of this great United States, as well as there's 3 Democrats, one Green Party of Cornel West, and one other party of the No Limits Party, which is dude out of West Virginia.
And Madam Ambassador, I think that's
Lots
the
of
correct
people will
tone
look
of address. Is that right?
It's
Madam
Nikki.
Ambassador?
Those are moments in time.
No, I can't do that. I'm born an Englishman. I can't say that kind of thing. In South Carolina, Trump's beating you by 34 points. You're South Carolina. Are you a bit surprised at his lead?
No.
Are you surprised at his lead?
It's early. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know, what we can tell you is we have received.
And she's not surprised. She's not surprised in any way, shape, or form that he's actually the one that's up and over and above bridge between Russia and Ukraine. Oh, yes, it's not a Crimea bridge. It's actually a different the Kirch bridge, which has actually been blown. I assume that we would actually believe that it would be Ukraine that would actually be the one that actually hit that. I would almost assume Russia wouldn't do it themselves. I have a feeling that it's not just Ukraine, that it may potentially be a NATO actually doing such a thing. Potentially. I believe Trump actually loves people. Same. He actually cares about the people and what we're about. The case as long as I have no problem with clowns leading the country has been the case as long as I have been alive. Plus some. Yes, there's always been clowns in our current government that we're actually dealing with.
160,000 donations from all 50 states. 95% of them are less than 200. We've raised, between the campaign and supporting organizations, $34 million. And the other guys are spending lots of money. We haven't spent any. The accountant in me is saving it. That's why you're not seeing the numbers move, because people are on vacation. Their kids are out of school. Once Labor Day hits, you're going to see it go. And that's when the time is to hit it hard.
I've got an NBC headline.
And that's when they hit it hard. She's going to wait until after Labor Day to actually start really seriously pushing for her contention for president of the United States of America. As far as I'm concerned, I don't believe Nimrata Haley should actually have the position that she's actually aiming for. I don't think that she's actually done enough to actually think that she can even do such a thing. In my opinion, she should wait another 4-ish years and maybe run up against the likeness of DeSantis then, when Trump will no longer be a contender, as I believe that he would actually probably take this current election the series coming up. I really do. his reputation with the people anyway. Yes, he loves the people. He really does. There's good people on both sides, but when it comes down to it, he really, really seriously enjoys all people of all walks and believes that they should all have the right to actually do as they wish.
I showed our viewers earlier. 5 months in, Nikki Haley is still waiting for her moment. All right. How do you plan to break out?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm saving my money and waiting for the moment when it matters.
Will
I'm
that do
not
it?
frivolously
Will just
spending.
money spending and ads, will that do it? Or do you need a breakout issue?
That and the debates. So we have our first debate in August, you know that, with Fox News. And so you've got a debate in August, September, October. And so as we go through that, we have been, I think I've done over 30 events in New Hampshire, over 25 events in Iowa. We just did another event in South Carolina. We're not doing rallies and leaving. We're going and we're making sure we do town halls, answering every question, shaking every hand, touching every person. We've got to.
You might want to not do that last thing that you suggested that you were doing and actually touching every last person. That might not be okay for you in the long run. That might turn out bad, as we've seen the current resident of the United States is doing to children and nibbling and smelling as much as he is.
Country to save, and there's going to be no shortcuts. No one will outwork me in this, and no one's going to outsmart me in this, and you can look at the spending and see that.
I understand you take 1 day off a week, totally off. You go home.
6 days a week, we're doing 15-hour days, and 1 day, no makeup. That's when I recharge. That's when I repack, and then we're back out on the road again.
You really need Trump in the debate, don't you?
I think I want Trump in the debate.
With Trump not in the debate, I think it actually it seriously hurts him if he doesn't actually show up for the debates. I don't think it's actually going to be a good thing for him, though he's actually leaning in polls. A lot of people would actually see that he's absent and may actually not be paying attention as much as you'd like to think they are, and may actually take it to the point where he might actually lose the potential nomination if that's the case. We'll see what he actually has to say this weekend, as he actually does have a rally coming up on Saturday out of Erie, Pennsylvania. We'll see if you actually have time to actually hit that up, if I'm even around. I usually don't stream on Saturdays. I usually do Sunday through Friday. I don't know if that's even going to be a thing that I'm going to be able to cover at all. I'd like to see what he actually does have to say, though. Why does anyone care about Trump? I don't really know if it's that they all just care about Trump. I think it's that they don't care about everybody else that's there, and they want somebody that's not technically the politician, somebody that's actually going to look up for the people and actually take care of the people. Nothing I'm willing to support, let alone vote for. You don't have to. You don't have to. We all have our own thoughts and opinions. Though I have this flag here, and I'll point it at it out one more time. Though I have the flag saying Trump 2024, I believe that currently, if I had to vote today, yes, that is the person that I'd vote for. I will be paying attention to these nominations, or these people that are looking for nomination, and we'll be paying attention very close for the next year and a half or so. And actually, figure out who is actually best for that position. And they may vote for somebody other than Trump if they can actually prove themselves to actually be legit.
And the reason is, I think the American people deserve to know what their options are. And really, it's offensive for a candidate to say they're not going to be on stage. You're basically trying to earn the support of the American people. You can't earn the support of the American people if you're absent.
Okay. 2 questions. Number 1, do you have a climate plan?
I think, first of all, we need to look at what has.
Do we need to have a climate plan? Really, seriously? How many people seriously believe that there is actually something wrong with our climate as it is? To me, in the 46 years that I've lived on this planet, I've seen 0 things that indicate that there's actually some kind of global warming, climate change, blah, 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 that seriously, in my mind, does not exist.
has happened so far. You look at these green subsidies, what they're doing to our businesses, they're killing us. We should take an all of the above approach when it comes to energy. No more going hat in hand to Saudi Arabia. No more getting dirty oil from Iran and Venezuela. This is about national security. It's also about bringing inflation down.
Yes. Fuck Fox News. Yes, this is Fox News asking these questions. Yes.
Drill, baby, drill.
I think that I was just on an oil rig in Texas. It's the most patriotic thing I've ever seen.
But does that meet the demands of climate change? I mean, if the extreme weather, if you believe that extreme weather because of CO2 emissions, would pumping more oil be a climate plan?
You know what would be a climate plan? Is to go after India and China, who are our biggest polluters.
She actually comes up with a good point. Go after those that are actually polluting this earth more than others and stop pointing the fingers at the United States like the United States is the one that's the issue when it comes down to it. It's not. United States is not the highest carbon emitter that's out there. It's actually China and India. Yes, go after them and actually ask them to actually cut down their carbon emissions, and maybe that in itself may actually help the planet as opposed to trying to eliminate the population.
America does things right.
Go after them?
Absolutely.
What do you do to China to go after them, to stop them polluting? What do you do?
Well, the Paris Climate Agreement was not it. I can tell you we got out of it because while we were pushing all of our businesses and heavy regulations, China's plan was to deal with it in 10 years. I've negotiated with China. 10 years never comes. India and China are our biggest polluters. If we really care about the environment, which I think we do, we need to start using the rest of the world to say, hey, we've got to start dealing with this. China, India, it's time for you to do your part.
Do you believe that China and India would sacrifice their economies in the name of climate change?
No, there's absolutely no way that either one of those countries is going to actually step down and be like, yes, we've been doing bad for a long time. China knows that their economy is very huge and that they actually produce more product, goods, military goods, and any other type of subsidy that you can possibly think of come out of China. They actually produce more for the world than any other country. For us to actually believe any different would be ridiculous and ignorant on our own part. And I believe some of these manufactured goods should actually come back to the United States, and we should actually produce our own stuff, as opposed to believing that they're actually going to be the ones that are actually going to do what they're doing and actually reduce their economies to actually make things better. They're not going to do that. They like money. They like money just like the rest of us.
I think that if the rest of the world told them it was time, they would have to do it. They don't like being called out. They know they have problems. We need to tell them that the rest of us are doing this. They can't be the only ones exempt. Climate change is real. We acknowledge that. But don't go after the good actors with the United States. Let's go after the actors that are really causing the problems in India and China.
What else are you going to do with the China plan? Because I think you are the only Republican candidate who claims a China plan. Apart from confronting them over climate,
yeah, she's the only one, not the other guy that said China for over, several years of actually screaming, hey, look, it's China. We need to get out of China's back pocket. We need to leave China alone. To only have our current resident of the United States say China's not the issue. China's not the issue. Praxis Caesar says 3 simple things to do. And the Fed and every agency which has subverted national security, the people, not bankers, and foreign entanglements always. And Europe should not be vassals, or any other country. We should actually not be involved in anybody else's wars whatsoever. The war should be fought between them and themselves, and they should actually fuck off to the point and stop making it be that we're the ones that need to actually spend our money to raise them up, to make them look good. I'm sick of it, and it's very disturbing. America is capable of very good manufacturing. They could be if we allowed them to actually do such a thing.
What would you do to them?
China is our #1 national security threat. We need to start treating them like that. First of all,
The number one security threat, when you actually look at it and you look at the island of Taiwan, that's actually about 100 miles off of the China borders. And then you look at Cuba, which is also about 100 miles off of the American borders. We have a big, huge gathering of troops and or civilians in and around Taiwan, as they also have their presence in and around Cuba. Maybe we should just like try to actually trade spaces with each other and say, you take Taiwan, we'll take Cuba, and leave each other alone. Quit fucking with each other.
no more allowing them to buy U.S. soil and get back what we've already taken. They're doing it near military installations. It's a threat. No more putting money into our universities. We tell our universities, you either take Chinese money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over, and we get that infiltration out. No more passing fentanyl across the border. They know exactly what they're doing when they send it. We need to make sure we deal with the cartels and we deal with China. No more foreign lobbying by the Chinese Communist Party or their Chinese front companies. That's a problem. And when it comes to the military, China is on the march. They are modernizing, building up their military. We need to be doing the same thing and stop the gender pronoun classes and start focusing on having a strong and powerful military.
That's a pretty full list, I've got to say, and that is true.
It's a pretty big problem.
Would you describe yourself as a classic Republican? And by that, I mean tax cuts,
No,
small
she's
government,
neocon.
less regulation, Reagan-esque.
I'm a conservative Republican. I believe that, small businesses are the heartbeat of the economy. And if small businesses have cash flow, they don't go on vacation, they hire people. I believe that government needs to stay out of the way. I believe capitalism has been the one and only way to lift up people in the history of the world. We don't need to start into the socialism creep. And I think freedom rings. And I think we need to let that happen.
I like that. I'm going to steal that.
You're welcome to.
Okay. Nikki Haley, thank you very much for being.
So she, socialism creep, she actually goes ahead and she actually calls socialism out for what it actually is. The ignorance to actually believe that socialism is actually good for us in any way, shape, or form is wrong. I believe she's right when she actually does say that capitalism is the only way to actually grow an economy, and it's the only way to actually grow an economy, as we actually watch people like AOC actually use such things as, just that to actually go ahead and bolster her own pocket when it comes down to it. It really is something. It's very disturbing to actually think that anybody should actually go any other way with that. Okay, so that was the end of the politics. Now we get into news. We get into some news as opposed to actually speaking of just the politics. I take it back. There's one more. It's semi political. She actually calls it. It's more of a hit piece on Anna Navarro and herself. When it comes down to it, it's very, very disturbing what she actually did go and do to actually get her own ABC to actually mute her and shut her mic off while she's ranting is gold in itself. It's hilarious. It's funny.
Middle school students in Florida to be told that enslaved people benefited from slavery.
I know it's a little bit of Kamala Harris, but it's actually about Anna Navarro and what she actually has to say about what Kamala Harris actually said.
High schoolers may be taught that victims of violence, of massacres, were also perpetrators. I said it yesterday. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us.
Who's the gaslighter? Thanks for projecting. Thank you for projecting Kamala Harris.
And we will not have it.
I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? You don't know what he's talking about because you're too ignorant to the point, Whoopi Goldberg. If anybody hasn't been paying attention to this channel, I do like to call The View and every single one of them for what they are. I think it's funny to actually do such a thing, and to pick on that hypocrite of Whoopi Goldberg is very fun.
Parlayed, what? Did you not see Roots? Did you not read it? What the? Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Thank you for stopping yourself from actually swearing, you ignorant bitch.
I'll let me throw it to y'all before I get in trouble again.
I live in Florida. I have been spitting mad about the culture wars that Ron DeSantis has been creating. So when he says that he has nothing to do with it, to blackies and
ABC in themselves don't like what it is that comes out of her mouth, goes and mutes her mic to stop her from actually spewing her nasty, ignorant rhetoric that she has, and it's hilarious.
minions to put that legislation into effect. He has created the environment that has led to this. What they say is that the updated standards now say that enslaved people develop skills that could be applied for their personal benefit. Slavery was the darkest moment of American history, our biggest shame. People got torn from their homelands.
But yet again, when you actually look at it, and they weren't torn from their homelands, they were actually sold by their own people to be enslaved. Every single civilization that has ever existed, every single one of them that's ever existed has had slavery of some sort and kind. Us, as the United States of America, were the first ones and the only ones to actually say we need to do away with it, and we should thank the likeness of that Republican Abraham Lincoln for his Emancipation Proclamation that actually went ahead and actually freed the slaves out of any other country that's ever done such a thing of had slaves. Ignorance.
Men, women, newborns put in the bowels of ships, shackled, made to row from Africa to America, then brought here and sold off like chattel, separated from their children, beat, whipped.
Oh, don't look at the white indentured servants either.
How
Don't worry
dare
about
you?
that.
Shame on you people in Florida. How dare you try to whitewash slavery? And
that's not what he was even doing. That's not what he was even doing. You didn't listen to the words that came out of his mouth. You listened to a word and you just assumed that he was being that way. You ignorant piece of crap. The British did it before the US. France did it too. However, they did change the meaning of slavery. Precisely.
And to the Commissioner of Education in Florida, Manny Diaz, a Cuban American, that is like saying that there's a redeeming quality to Cuban political prisoners under Castro. Yeah. When you don't have freedom, you don't have anything. And for this man, Ron DeSantis, who's apparently his only skill that he has acquired is lying and creating culture wars that he thinks are going to make him president, they're not, buddy. That's why you're 30 points down.
Well, and Anna hits it on the head there.
That's why you're 30 points down to the one guy that comes from descendants that didn't actually hold slaves, Donald Trump. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? But yet again, he's the racist one. Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to DeSantis's team this weekend.
honestly in hopes that there was some decent explanation here. And basically what I got from them was, well, there were some Black educators and scholars who contributed to this, and it's been on the books for over a decade. Well, a lot of things have been on the books for over a decade that shouldn't be, and they're bad and they're terrible. My friend Will Hurd, I think, said it better than I could have, which was, it was literally the most dehumanizing institution, subjugated people as property because they lacked any basic rights and freedoms. This is Ron DeSantis doing what I wanted to think there was better to him, but I'm realizing there's not. He needs two things right now: name ID and donors. So what he's doing is trying to stoke these rage things that the media is then going to cover, and then his core base is going to come out and defend him. He raises his name ID and his money on it, but it's bad for America. Yeah. And that is precisely why, as Anna says, his poll numbers are precipitously dropping. Swing states, Minnesota's focus group just came out that showed that, I mean, people like me, college-educated Republican voters, are running away from him because he is trying to take us so far backward. I would say I miss the Ron DeSantis I knew in the House. He was not this kind of culture warrior, but this is horrible. Well, yeah. I guess we're coming back. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, because zero people had anything to actually rebut on any of that to actually bring up another topic. And Whoopi Goldberg just so happened to be like, oh okay, yeah, let's come back. We'll be back in a little bit with absolutely nothing of context. Why? Because we're The View and we're ignorant. What are they even on about? You all lost the culture war. Debt slaves are only real slaves. They are not really slaves, are they? Yes, they really are. They absolutely are. Rainier Legal Department. Hello. Good to see you. Welcome. Glad you're here. Everybody, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. We're going to kind of actually move on a little bit from some of this. We're actually going to speak of actual news as opposed to speaking of politics. So there's a young man that's a fitness influencer. He's a fitness influencer, and he went ahead and he was actually at a gym, and he actually crushed himself to death. This is Justin Vicky, a 33-year-old fitness influencer and personal trainer, died during a workout session in Paradise Bali Gym in Indonesia on July 15th. While doing squat presses, the spotter assisted a 450-pound barbell slip from his grasp, fatally crushing his neck. The Daily Mail reported the lone spotter behind Vicky could only watch helplessly as he fell to the floor. Justin was more than just a fitness expert. He was a beacon of inspiration, motivation, unwavering support. His infectious energy and genuine passion is helping others transform their lives touched us deeply. Paradise Gym wrote on Instagram, through countless workouts, words of encouragement, and compassionate guidance, he became an irreplaceable part of our fitness journey in our gym family. This young man here, 450 pounds, slamming down and breaking your neck could be very dangerous and very horrible. Why'd you retract your message? It's okay. You can put anything you'd like in there right now. What's up, Sean D? Good to see you. LOL. Sorry. Sorry about what? What's up, man? How's it going? Good to see you. So I mean, it just, some quick articles to actually throw at you about some interesting goings on in and around the United States and the world when it comes to people in the news. So then, we're not going to speculate on what it was that actually caused this to actually happen. But here you go. ESPN broadcaster collapses during live broadcast. You play a little quick video here for you. Back, he steps back, and then and straight forward, bam, hits the ground. We need some help. Get some medics. Medics. Very disturbing to actually wonder what actually happened to this particular person. we can all probably speculate on what suddenly happened and why he all of a sudden just so happened to go ahead and fall straight forward, crashing to the ground. Apparently, he's okay. They've actually been able to bring him to some kind of level. Oh, yes, the Koof jab. Yes, yes, yes. Like I said, we won't speculate too hard on what exactly happened to this particular person and what would actually cause him to actually just us and clot up, fall back, and fall down to the ground. We have no clue, but Shaka Hislop 54 collapsed Sunday. We hope that he is okay and that he will actually be fine as time moves on. Very sad and scary to actually believe that so many people are so ignorant to the point that they would actually go ahead and continue to jab themselves over and over again. Crazy, he looks 40. I know, right? 54-year-old. He looked nowhere near 54. He looked pretty young for his age. And for such a thing to actually happen where he just so happened to lose all control and actually just fall straight flat on his face is very sad and disturbing to actually think that hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's okay. Okay, so Law and Crime messed up. Law and Crime messed up. They actually went ahead. They went ahead and they actually published this article here. It says, man allegedly shot and killed his pregnant boyfriend and then himself in murder-suicide. The Florida man has allegedly murdered his pregnant boyfriend and stole the life of the victim's unborn child, has lengthy history of terrorizing people in his life as indicated in court documents. Riley John Grover, 26, shot and killed himself after carrying a homicide in Polk County Sheriff's Office in Florida said. His mother identified the victim as Camden Ryder, 21, a transgender man who is 8 months pregnant. A transgender man who's 8 months pregnant. Now, this is where they actually messed up. Right here, right in the headline in itself. Pregnant boyfriend. That's supposedly where they messed up. Wait, what? Yeah, exactly. We're going to actually get you to a better article that will actually give you the truth on what was actually going on with this particular situation. Here you go. Viral Law and Crime story about murder-suicide dragged for referring to a woman victim as pregnant boyfriend. What the fuck does this mean? 26-year-old Florida man is dead after murdering his pregnant girlfriend and turning the gun on himself. The victim has been identified by her mother as Camden Ryder, 21, who is 8 months pregnant and transgender. Riley John Grover is believed to have shot Ryder multiple times. First responders attempted to save the baby's life in Winter Haven, but were unable to do so. Both mother and baby died at the scene just after 7 p.m. July 22nd. Grover and Ryder were engaged to be married. The tragic story, however, became the target of criticism when Law and Crime reported the incident as one in which a man shot and killed his pregnant boyfriend and then himself in a murder-suicide. Men cannot become pregnant, and the only people who have ever been pregnant on Earth in the entire history of humanity have been female. So you can see there's Law and Crime. Man shoots pregnant boyfriend and then himself. The bizarre account of the disturbing said the story caught an ire of YouTuber Tim Pool, who said simply, "What the fuck does this mean?" in response to a headline from Law and Crime. Good question. CEO and satire site of the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon, quoted the headline, which certainly has the appearance of satire. Pregnant boyfriend, Dillon said. Libs of TikTok, radio host John Steigerwald, and others all pointed out the insanity of reporting that a woman who was killed by her boyfriend was in fact that man's pregnant boyfriend. And you can see, there's Steigerwald's comment. So the horizon phenomenon of it being acceptable to outright lie and say that men can become pregnant, which can only result from a pregnant woman claiming to be a man, is an attempt to appease ideologues who believe that reality is a manifestation of the self. They further believe that the entirety of the society should acquiesce to the wishes of those who believe they're actually the opposite sex and express the lie publicly. There are many publications that go along with this, but the expression of this by law and order is somewhat shocking. Not only is it clearly false to say that the woman who shot and murdered along with her unborn child was someone's boyfriend, but it downplays the very real problem of domestic violence against women in the home. Family members told reporters that Ryder and Grover had frequent arguments, but nothing that had risen to the level of being reported to the police. Okay, this is hilarious again. Yeah, I'm glad that you actually found it hilarious. I'm glad that actually came across right. If you want to call me a supporter of not caring, so be it. It's literally none of my business. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it for the most. I really don't care if you're an actual adult and you're actually doing such a thing. It's when you actually force those ideologues along to our children to actually go ahead and make our children believe that it's okay for them to actually, do such a thing as a minor. Once they're an adult and they still feel the same way, okay, fine. But leave our children out of it, and that's my big issue. The issue with this particular article is law and order. Is law and order going to the point of actually doing what they've done and actually calling it out improperly and saying that he actually went ahead and removed his pregnant boyfriend is funny in itself to actually believe that law and order is so ignorant to the point that they'd actually do such a thing. It should not be advertised, and I'm trying to cheat on my wife. That should actually be deplorable. Sure. I agree with you. I agree with your praxis seizure. Totally. When it comes down to it, like I said, that the point of the article was actually called Law and Crime out for their ridiculousness and their criticism of the situation and calling it out for what it really isn't, and actually using their own terms and actually making people believe that there's something more than what there really was. Kind of funny, kind of interesting, kind of disturbing. And obviously he unalived himself at the same time as taking out the pregnant boyfriend and the baby at the same time, when indeed the pregnant boyfriend was technically a transgender woman. Mind blown. I'm so sick of the transgenderism when it comes down to it. It's really something kind of disgusting that this world has actually kind of succumbed to. I don't feel it's fair for anyone to believe that they're actually just that. It's wrong. It's gross. Two things left. So I've preached over and over again. Leave the wildlife alone. Leave the wildlife alone. Woman found dead near Yellowstone National Park after bear encounter. A woman is found dead in the trail of Montana near Yellowstone National Park after an apparent bear encounter on Sunday, according to the state wildlife officials. Buzzwords and sayings reveal truth. Yes. Totally. I'm totally with you on that one, Sean. A woman was found dead on the trail in Montana near Yellowstone National Park after an apparent bear encounter on Sunday. The woman's body was discovered in the Buttermilk Trail west of West Yellowstone, a small town in Custer Galatian National Forest, just west of the national park. The Montana Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks said in a statement. Officials said that grizzly bear tracks were found at the scene of the investigation into the reported attack is ongoing. The department said the woman's death appeared to have followed an interaction with a bear, though it did not confirm her cause of death. Rangers issued emergency closure of the popular hiking area where the victim was found. The attack comes amid a rise of Montana's grizzly bear population and an increase in sightings. Last week, the department warned visitors from numerous sightings in the region, particularly the areas between Northern Continental Divide and the Great Yellowstone ecosystem. Officials say ask that visitors carry and know how to use bear spray and urge them to travel in groups and to avoid animal carcasses if spotted. Earlier this month, a woman was gored in the chest by a bison while vacationing in Yellowstone National Park. Her boyfriend later proposed to her in the hospital. Why that needed to actually be said is beyond me, but this has not been the first time that the people have actually been attacked by the wildlife in Yellowstone National Park. You are advised to actually stay so far away from all wildlife whatsoever when you're actually visiting the region, and to be very, very careful to not actually get gored or mauled by the wildlife. Offnix, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Transgender is and can be real. What we have here is trenders. Yes, it's fine. I don't care if adults want to actually do that. My issue is to leave the children alone. Keep it away from the children. The point of the article wasn't to actually point out the transgenderism. It was actually to point out the hypocrisy of law and crime and what they actually had to actually say about the situation. So is that as far as that goes. And I'm with you on that praxis. Yes. Prevent people from doing stupid things. They'll never learn that it's stupid. And I mean, here's another instance of such a thing, of people doing stupid things. It's too bad that nobody's actually listening or learning about others doing stupid things, and they're not learning. My cousin is a forest ranger here in Canada. She's always saying how stupid people are around bears. Yep. People are pretty freaking dumb to the point. It's really amazing. Yes, Optics. I know that we agree on that one, in particular, 1,000,000,000% for sure. Last thing. Woman hits the jackpot after unknowingly purchasing storage unit belonging to a famous rapper. A Los Angeles bid $1,000 on a 10 by 20 storage locker that discovered it contained personal, valuable items belonging to a rapper. The Game, TMZ reported Monday. Carol and her son said that they had been acquiring lockers as a hobby and had no idea they were about to stumble upon something so valuable. According to TMZ, they paid an additional $1,400 to dump some of the clutter that they located in the storage unit, but that's nothing compared to the significant value of the rare contents they now own. They claim they have found more than 1,000 personal items that belonged to the rapper. And some of the findings include personalized art, framed jerseys, personal awards, clothing, shoes, personal photographs, hats, and a guitar, all belonging to the Game, according to TMZ. It was later revealed that someone from the Game's team put a number of the famous rapper's personal belongings into a storage unit after he moved out of his home and went back to take a few things before the rest was signed off for auction because he didn't want to keep paying rent for the unit. Carol is excited to earn money from the lucky find, but said she would first contact the game to see if he wants to purchase any of these items back, since some of them are so sentimental. It is not yet clear if the game is aware of the fact that the items are missing or that they've been sold at an auction block. If the game doesn't purchase his stuff back from her, Carol said she looks forward to earning some money off the contents by selling them at an auction house. Very funny and hilarious to actually think that, almost anybody, and it doesn't matter the amount of money that you had or have, that if you are ignorant to the point of not realizing that you could actually lose your personal possessions to somebody that goes around and buys lockers, for this particular person to go around and actually find this particular locker. Hopefully, no matter what they do, they make a very, very decent penny off of it. Yes, exactly. Nice score. And it's pretty funny at the same time. I find it freaking hilarious to actually believe that, somebody actually left their goods in a storage locker by the name of the game. Now, I remember as a younger adult actually listening to rap songs by the game, and I thought he was actually pretty fun to actually listen to when he was actually there and actually part of the game, as it be. I find this hilarious, and it was a good way to actually round out the show, to actually give you something fun to go away on, as opposed to actually looking at the disasters of our politics and our current government, as it be, or of course anything else when it comes down to it. I appreciate you all so very, very much. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I'm here every single night, 8:30 Mountain Standard Time, Sunday through Friday. I'm not here on Saturdays. Saturdays I take off and do family things. Again, I appreciate you all so very, very much for being here. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. Share this out to all those places that you like to share things to, if it's not already been shared already. And show your appreciation by actually hitting up a $sign or a money bag of some sort and actually throwing something at me. Thank you all that have already been here and done so. I appreciate it so very much. Jared McCoy, what is a liberal fax? Oh, that's Sean D's thing. He likes to actually call me a liberal because he thinks that I'm actually liberal, which is fine in itself, because he usually puts the big L on front of it as opposed to a little L. I do appreciate y'all so much. I'm pretty sure he was supposed to actually say probably Fox as opposed to fax. And in my opinion, I have really no clue what he's actually trying to get at. But, as far as that goes, yes, I know. And I was answering for you. Peace out, everyone. Thanks for being here. Again, appreciate y'all so much. I'll leave you with one last quick thought of,
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Later.